I stood outside my son's penthouse door, holding hot beef stew after my fourth job of the day. For 3 years, I had worked 5 jobs, sending him every spare dollar because he claimed debt was destroying him. Then I heard laughter inside. "The old man is proud of working 5 jobs," my son scoffed. "That's just proof of a failed life. Let him keep sending money. At least he's still useful." The room burst out laughing. That was the moment I decided to uncover the truth. This story starts with a father who trusted too much. Before we dive in, leave me a comment. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Your answer might help someone else feel less alone. Just a heads up, some details are fictionalized for storytelling, but the core lesson about protecting what matters is what I hope stays with you. I stand outside my son's door at 7:30 on a Monday night, holding a container of home-cooked stew, and through the expensive mahogany, I hear him call me a deadbeat old bastard. My name is Herbert Stone, and at 67 years old, I have learned that a man's greatest mistake is confusing love with usefulness. Let me back up. This morning started the way every morning has started for 3 years, 4:15 a.m., pitch dark, my body waking before the alarm because muscle memory runs deeper than exhaustion. I rolled out of bed in my modest 2-bedroom house in Squirrel Hill, where houses sag gently into their foundations and nobody asks questions. My knees cracked. My back screamed. I ignored both. Before leaving the bedroom, I paused at the nightstand. Eleanor's photograph sits there in a simple wooden frame, her at 43, laughing at something I said, cheeks flushed with happiness. She has been gone 11 years now. Cancer took her fast. I opened the nightstand drawer. Inside, folded in neat quarters, sits the letter she wrote me 3 days before she died. The envelope is worn soft from my fingers, but I have never opened it. Not because I forgot, but because I am terrified she said something I am not ready to hear. I closed the drawer, closed the 5 jobs, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is my life now. Has been for 3 years straight, ever since my son Lamar, 38 years old, Princeton-educated, sharp as a knife, came to me with tears in his eyes and told me his business was drowning in debt. $180,000. A supplier lawsuit gone wrong, he said. Creditors circling like wolves. He needed help, Dad. Just temporary. I liquidated my retirement savings the next week. It was not enough. So I started working. Job 1, overnight security guard at a downtown office tower, 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. I sit at a desk, watch monitors, walk the floors twice a shift. Job 2, delivery driver, 6 a.m. to noon. I haul packages up staircases, navigate Pittsburgh's streets, smile at customers who do not see me. Job 3, hardware store clerk, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. I stock shelves, answer questions about drill bits, pretend my hands do not shake. Job 4, grocery stocking, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. More lifting, more shelves, more fluorescent lights. Job 5, weekend handyman work. Fixing toilets, painting fences, replacing gutters. Whatever pays. I send every single check to Lamar. Every penny. He tells me the creditors are relentless. I believe him because he is my son, and a father's job is to believe. 3 years. When did I last sleep past sunrise? When did I last wake without my spine grinding like rusted gears? When did I last sit down to a meal that was not eaten standing over a sink? I cannot remember, but I do it. Because Lamar is all I have left. Eleanor is gone. Our daughter died in childbirth at 19. Lamar is the only thread connecting me to the family we built. So I work. I do not complain. I do not ask for gratitude. Tonight, after my grocery shift ended, I went home and made stew. Eleanor's recipe: beef, carrots, potatoes, red wine, and fresh thyme. I packed it in a container still warm and drove to the Meridian. The Meridian is a luxury high-rise in downtown Pittsburgh, all glass and steel and doormen in uniforms that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Lamar lives on the 14th floor in a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I know because I helped him move in 2 years ago, hauling boxes up the service elevator while he directed traffic. I took the elevator up tonight still wearing my delivery uniform, sweat-stained and wrinkled. The hallway on the 14th floor is marble, the kind that clicks under your shoes. I walked to his door container, growing heavy in my hands. I raised my fist to knock. Then I heard laughter inside. Loud, unrestrained, the kind that comes with expensive whiskey and people who have never worried about money. I paused. Lamar's voice cut through the door, clear as a bell. Honestly, the guy's proud of working 5 jobs. 5. To me, that is just the hallmark of a failed life. The deadbeat old bastard actually thinks he is helping. More laughter. A woman's voice. Oh my God, Lamar, I am serious, he continued. Every week like clockwork, he sends me these checks with little notes. Hope this helps, son. It is pathetic. If he had any real skills, any actual value, he would not need to work like a dog just to scrape together pennies. Someone else. Doesn't he know you are loaded? Lamar laughed. He knows what I tell him. And what I tell him is that I am drowning in debt, and he is my only lifeline. Keeps him useful. Keeps him out of my hair. The laughter that followed echoed in the marble hallway. I stood there, container in my hands, and felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart that is too dramatic. Something quieter. Something that had been holding me upright for 3 years. I set the container down on the floor outside his door. The plastic made a soft sound against the marble. Then I turned around and walked to the elevator. My footsteps did not echo. I made sure of that. In the elevator descending 14 floors, I stared at my reflection in the polished steel doors. 67 years old. Gray hair. Lined face. Uniform that smelled like sweat and diesel. I looked exactly like what I was, a man who had worked himself to the bone for a son who called him a deadbeat behind closed doors. I decided one thing as I walked away from that door. I would not cry tonight. I would not collapse. I would not scream. I would remember every word, every laugh, every syllable of contempt from the son I had worked myself to death for. And I would think very carefully about what comes next. I sit in my delivery truck in a dark supermarket parking lot on the south side for 5 hours straight, staring at nothing because going home means pretending tonight did not happen. It is 11 p.m. The lot is empty except for a single streetlight that flickers every 30 seconds. I count the flickers. 20, 40, 60. I lose track. The truck cab smells like diesel and old coffee. My hands rest on the steering wheel even though the engine is off. Outside, a security guard makes his rounds past the front entrance, flashlight bobbing. He does not notice me. Nobody does. I replay the words over and over. The deadbeat old bastard actually thinks he is helping. Nah, keeps him useful, keeps him out of my hair. 3 years, 5 jobs, 14 hours a day. $180,000 in debt he claimed was drowning him. And I believed every word because he cried when he asked for help. Because he is my son. Because after Eleanor died and our daughter never came home from the hospital, Lamar was all I had left of the family we built. I pull out my phone at 3:30 a.m. Lamar's contact name glows on the screen. My thumb hovers over the call button for 10 minutes. Then I put the phone away. Not yet. Something shifts in my chest. Not grief I had that in the elevator. This is colder, clearer. A decision crystallizing like ice. I will not confront him. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not until I understand exactly what he has done and how deep this goes. If Lamar thinks I am a useful fool, then I will be the best fool he has ever seen. I will smile. I will cook him dinner. I will send him checks with little notes that say, "Hope this helps, son." And while I do that, I will investigate every single document I signed, every bank statement I ignored, every story he told me about creditors and lawsuits and businesses drowning in red ink. My son made one critical mistake tonight. He assumed I am too broken to fight back. At 4:15 a.m., my body wakes out of habit, even though I have not slept. I start the truck and drive home to shower and change. At 6 a.m., I clock in for my delivery route like nothing happened. At 6:45, I stop at a diner and buy 2 breakfast sandwiches. At 7 a.m., I knock on Lamar's door. He opens it in silk pajamas, yawning hair mussed from sleep. "Dad, you are early." I hold up the bag. "I made your favorite, well bought it. Sausage and egg on a everything bagel extra cheese." His face does something complicated, surprise, maybe guilt, maybe annoyance, but he takes the bag. "Thanks. You did not have to do that." "I know," I say, smiling. "But I wanted to. You work so hard, Lamar. I just want to make sure you are eating right." He looks at me for a long moment. I hold the smile steady. Finally, he nods. "You are a good dad." I say. I leave before he can see my hands shaking. Tuesday afternoon, after my hardware store shift ends at 6 p.m., I do not go to my grocery stocking job. I call in sick for the first time in 3 years. The manager sounds shocked. I tell him I have a stomach bug. He tells me to feel better. Instead, I drive to the Pittsburgh Public Library on the north side. The second-floor reading room is quiet, just a handful of college students with headphones and an elderly woman reading newspapers. I borrow a laptop from the front desk using my library card. I have not used a computer for anything but work emails in years. My fingers feel clumsy on the keyboard, but I remember enough. I start with my email account. I search for every message Lamar sent me over the past 3 years. There are dozens. Most are short. "Thanks for the check, Dad. Creditors are pushing hard this month. You are saving my life." I find the first one dated September 2022. The subject line, "Emergency, please call." In the body, he attached a PDF, a legal document titled "Demand for Payment," listing a debt of $180,000 owed by a company called Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC. I stare at that name for a full minute. Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC. I set that company up for my wife in 2009. She loved making quilts, hand-stitched blankets, little decorative pillows she sold at craft fairs on weekends. It made her happy. She never made much money, maybe a few $1,000s a year, but it was hers. Something separate from being a mother and a wife. Something that belonged only to Eleanor. When she got sick in 2010, the craft business stopped. After she died in 2014, I never touched the account. It just sat there, a corporate entity with her name on it, dormant. Lamar knew about it. Of course he did. He helped me set it up back when he was 24 and fresh out of business school, eager to show off what he learned about LLCs and tax structures. I open another tab and search for Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC in the Pennsylvania Business Registry. It is still active. The registered agent is listed as Lamar Stone. It was changed from my name to his in 2021. I click through more documents Lamar sent me. Bank statements, payment receipts. Every single one lists Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC as the debtor. The debt is not from some outside business venture gone wrong. My son has been systematically bleeding money out of his dead mother's company, then turning to me and claiming he needed help paying off creditors. He used her name, her legacy, the one thing she built that was entirely hers. I sit frozen in the library chair. Around me, students type on laptops. The old woman turns a page. Outside the window, a bus hisses to a stop. My hands are shaking again, but this time it is not grief. It is not even shock. It is rage. I open a new tab. My fingers move slowly across the keyboard, one key at a time. Elder financial abuse attorney, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The search results fill the screen. Dozens of law firms. Free consultations. Testimonials from families who discovered too late that someone they trusted had been stealing from them. I stare at the screen. Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC. Her name tied to documents showing systematic theft. My son did not just steal from me. He stole from his dead mother's legacy. I need a lawyer, yes, but first I need to know exactly how deep this goes. At 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night, sitting across from Leland Fisher at the security desk with 2 cups of stale coffee between us, I break my silence and tell another human being what my son said. The words come out flat. No tears, no cracking voice, just the facts laid out like an incident report. Monday night. The Meridian Building. Standing outside the door with home-cooked stew. My son's voice through expensive mahogany calling me a deadbeat old bastard. The laughter. Walking away. Then Tuesday afternoon at the library. Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC. The company I built for my late wife now bleeding money into documents with my son's signature all over them. Leland listens without interrupting. The fluorescent lights hum yellow above us. The CCTV monitors glow in the corner, cycling through empty hallways and parking garages. We have sat at this desk together for 2 years, 5 nights a week, mostly in comfortable silence. I know he takes his coffee black. I know he reads westerns during the slow hours. I know he has a daughter in Colorado he does not talk to. But I never knew what he did before this. When I finish, Leland sets his coffee down carefully. The ceramic cup clicks against the metal desk. He says he is the only person who calls me that short for Raymond, my middle name. Before I ended up in this uniform, I spent 22 years as a corporate insurance fraud investigator. I stare at him. Leland Fisher, 64 years old with silver hair and eyes sharp as razors behind wire-rimmed glasses, leans back in his chair. What you just described, that is not a family matter. That is a criminal offense. Elder financial exploitation, corporate identity theft, fraud. If your son used your late wife's business entity to fabricate debt and extract money from you under false pretenses, he committed multiple felonies. The words hit me like cold water. Well, I spent 2 decades hunting people who do exactly what your son is doing. Leland continues. They find a vulnerable target, usually family, usually someone who trusts them, and they bleed them dry while making it look legitimate on paper. I am not vulnerable, I say quietly. No. Leland agrees. You are not. But your son thinks you are. That is his first mistake. He leans forward, elbows on the desk. Do you want me to help you? I look at this man I have sat beside for 2 years, drinking stale coffee at 2 a.m., watching silent monitors. How many nights have we been here together, each carrying our own weights, never speaking them aloud? Help me how? Leland smiles for the first time that night. It is not a warm smile. It is the smile of a hunter who just picked up a scent. The right way. Friday afternoon. I sit in the passenger seat of Leland's sedan, parked 3 blocks from the building where I work my office cleaning shift. Rain hammers the roof. The windows fog with our breath. Leland has papers spread across the dashboard, bank statements I pulled from my files, receipts, copies of documents Lamar sent me over the past 3 years. He works through them methodically, a reading lamp clipped to the sun visor casting harsh light across the pages. Here, he says, tapping a bank statement. September 2024. You sent Lamar $2,800. It cleared your account on the 15th. I nod. I remember. He said the creditors were threatening legal action. Leland pulls out another sheet. Same month. Joint account your son opened in his name and yours back in 2022. You gave him signature authority. Yes. He said it would make transferring funds easier. I say. Right. On September 17th, 2 days after your check cleared a withdrawal. $9,800. Payee luxury timepieces of Pittsburgh. He slides a printout across to me. It is a receipt. Rolex Submariner stainless steel. Date of purchase September 17th, 2024. Total $9,800. October. Leland continues pulling another document. You sent him $3,000. On October 9th, Mercedes-Benz of Pittsburgh. Lease agreement. AMG model. $1,400 per month. Another paper. November. You sent $2,500. Capitol Grill Pittsburgh reservation for 6 people. $1,200. He keeps going. Each month for the past 3 years, my checks arrive. Days later, money flows out of the joint account into luxury purchases. Watches, cars, restaurants I could not afford to walk past. The rain hammers the sedan roof. The papers spread across Leland's dashboard glow under the streetlight. Each receipt is a small knife. Your son is not paying off debt, Leland says quietly. He is funding a lifestyle, and I think I know why. He pulls out his phone, shows me a photograph from a society page. Pittsburgh Business Times, dated 3 months ago. A charity gala. In the photo, my son stands in a tuxedo beside a young woman in an evening gown. The caption reads, Lamar Stone of Stone Consulting with Estefania Whitfield, daughter of industrialist Cassius Whitfield. Cassius Whitfield. I know that name. Everyone in Pittsburgh does. Billionaire, real estate, energy sector, one of the wealthiest men in Pennsylvania. Your son is desperately performing for his wealthy in-laws, Leland says. The Rolex, the Mercedes, the expensive dinners. He is building a fake image of grand success to match his wife's status, and you are paying for every piece of it. I stare at the photograph. My son looks polished, confident, successful. Everything I am not. I reached out to an old contact, Leland says. Vince Caro, private investigator. He worked with me on insurance fraud cases for 15 years. He is discreet, thorough, and he owes me a favor. If there is more your son is hiding, and I guarantee you there is, Vince will find it. I look out the rain-slicked window at the gray Pittsburgh street. 3 years. 5 jobs. Every penny I scraped together going toward Rolex watches and luxury car leases so my son could impress a woman whose father probably makes more in an hour than I make in a year. Where do we start? I ask. Leland folds the financial analysis and sets it on the dashboard between us. His expression is calm, cold, professional. We start with a shadow, he says. On Saturday morning, my neighbor Viola Lockwood meets me on her porch, holding a photograph of a license plate, and says, "A man came by last week, asking if I thought you were still capable of making your own decisions. The surveillance started that Friday." Vince Caro began following my son through Pittsburgh. But Viola's words tell me surveillance is not just Leland's idea, it is already happening to me. Viola Lockwood, 71. My neighbor of 30 years stands on her porch in a cardigan despite the mild September morning. She misses nothing. I know this because in 3 decades she has reported every suspicious car, every broken streetlight, every stray dog that wanders our Squirrel Hill block. What man, I ask? Or last Tuesday, she says. Around 10 in the morning. Knocked on my door, showed me some kind of identification card too fast for me to read properly. Said he was a social worker conducting wellness checks on elderly residents. My stomach tightens. He asked questions. Viola continues. Does Herbert Stone forget things? Does he drive alone safely? Does he cook for himself? Or does he seem confused? Can he manage his own finances? Viola's porch smells like autumn chrysanthemums. Her hands shake slightly as she holds out the photograph, a license plate clearly visible, taken from her front window. She has protected me without even knowing the war had started. Should I told him. Viola says, voice firm, that Herbert Stone is sharper than I am and that he should get off my porch before I called the police. I take the photograph, Pennsylvania plate. I do not recognize it, but Leland will. Did he go to any other houses, I ask? Not that I saw, just mine. He left after I threatened to call 911. I hug her. She smells like lavender soap and old books. Thank you, Viola. Can you keep this photo safe? And if anyone else comes asking questions about me, tell me immediately. Of course, she says, then quieter. Herbert, what is going on? Family trouble, I say. It is not a lie. Inside, the gears are turning. My son does not just want my money. He wants my autonomy. You need to understand something in Pennsylvania. An adult guardianship order can strip every right you have. Finances, medical decisions, where you live, all gone with the judge's signature. The person declared your guardian controls everything. You become a legal child again, except children eventually grow up. Wards of guardianship rarely escape, and the evidence needed testimony from neighbors. A social worker's report. A doctor's note about memory issues. Lamar is not stealing anymore. He is building a cage. I text Leland the license plate photo. His response comes in under 2 minutes. Bring it Monday. Vince is delivering his first report. Monday evening, I sit in Leland's apartment, a small one-bedroom in Bloomfield, with bookshelves lining every wall and a kitchen table covered in manila folders. Vince Caro is already there when I arrive. Vince, mid-50s, compact, build the kind of man you would not notice in a crowd, which I suppose is the point. He spent 15 years working corporate fraud cases with Leland. Now he runs his own investigation firm specializing in what he calls personal misconduct research. He has been following my son for 5 days. Your boy does not have a job, Vince says, sliding photos across the table. Not a real one. Stone Consulting is a shell. No clients, no office, just a registered business name and a website. The photos show Lamar at various Pittsburgh locations, leaving his Meridian building at 10 a.m. in athleisure wear, entering a high-end gym downtown, sitting at outdoor bistro tables with wine glasses and small plates that probably cost $80 to $150 each. Stuccatrice. Luxury gym membership, Vince continues. $200 a month. Eats out twice a day, never the same place, always upscale. Afternoons, he often stops by the Whitfield Group headquarters on Liberty Avenue, putting on a massive show of being a high-flying businessman for his wife's powerful family. He's trying desperately to maintain a billionaire lifestyle to match her elite social standing. He is performing for them, I say. Obsessively. Vince agrees. But that is not the interesting part. He pulls out another set of photos. My son entering a building downtown. The brass plaque beside the door reads, Morrison and Webb Legal. 3 visits in 2 weeks, Vince says. Tuesday the 9th, Thursday the 18th, and this morning, Monday the 22nd. Each appointment lasted between 90 minutes and 2 hours. Leland leans forward. Morrison and Webb specialize in one-thing estate and guardianship litigation. They are not the firm you hire to draft a will or handle a simple contract. They are the firm you hire when you want to take legal control of someone's life. The photographs sit on the table between us. My son in his expensive clothes walking into a law office that exists to strip people of their autonomy. The license plate Viola photographed. Leland says, sliding another document across. Registered to Apex Wellness Services. It is a front company. They provide independent assessments for guardianship cases. Pay them $1,500. They will visit your target's neighbors, doctors, anyone you want, and write a report that says whatever you need it to say. 3 appointments with a guardianship shark in 2 weeks. Leland continues. Hiring fake social workers to build false testimony. This is not research, Ray. This is an ambush. I stare at the photos of my son entering that law office. Each one dated and time-stamped. Evidence that he is planning to lock me away. How much time do we have before he files, I ask. Vince and Leland exchange a look. In maybe 6 weeks, Vince says. Maybe less. If he is meeting with Morrison and Webb this frequently, they are finalizing the petition. Once it is filed, you will get a court date. After that, it is a race. A race I could lose, I say. Not if we move first, Leland says quietly. I look at these 2 men, a retired fraud investigator and a private detective sitting in a cramped Bloomfield apartment, helping me fight my own son. What do we do, I ask. Leland taps the Morrison and Webb photo. We find out exactly what they are planning to file, and then we dismantle it piece by piece before it ever sees a courtroom. 6 weeks to stop a guardianship petition. That night, I lie awake calculating options. Legal defense costs money I do not have. But Tuesday afternoon, I drive down to the East Side Industrial Zone with a heavy iron key hanging around my neck, the key to a property I have not visited in 4 years. Because every time I think about going, I remember Eleanor's hands signing the deed. The East Side Zone is all rusted chain link and cracked asphalt warehouses the color of old pennies stretching in rows like tombstones. I pull my delivery truck up to a set of iron gates secured with a padlock bigger than my fist. The sign above reads, Lot 47B, 12,000 square feet. I get out. The key hangs on a leather cord under my shirt. I have worn it every day since Eleanor died. Never took it off. Never told anyone what it unlocks. The padlock clicks open with a heavy sound. The gates screech on rusted hinges. Inside the warehouse stands weathered but solid corrugated steel walls, high ceiling with skylights fogged by years of industrial grime, concrete floor, stained with oil patterns from decades of use. Eleanor bought this property in 2008 with her life savings. $43,000 she had saved from 15 years of craft fairs and quilt sales, every dollar carefully tucked away. She told me it was for the grandchildren later. I did not understand what she meant. We only had Lamar and our daughter was already gone. What grandchildren? But Eleanor was adamant. She signed the deed herself, insisted her name go on the title alone, made me promise I would never sell it unless it was to protect family. The warehouse smells like rust and old rain. The afternoon light cuts through dirty windows in long golden bars. This is Eleanor's cathedral. I walk across the empty floor, footsteps echoing. In the far corner, high on the wall, a small wooden sign still hangs where she put it 13 years ago. Hand-painted letters, Eleanor's for the little ones. I never told Lamar about this place. Not when Eleanor was alive. Not after she died. It was hers. Sacred. The one thing I kept separate from the slow collapse of everything else. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I pull it out. A text message from a number I do not recognize. Pittsburgh area code. Mr. Stone, this is Scott Hargrove Prestige Logistics Corporation. We wish to finalize discussions regarding acquisition of your East Side lot. Our initial buyout offer remains at $4.8 million. Please contact us at your earliest convenience to schedule closing. I read the text once, then again, then a third time. $4.8 million. My legs feel unsteady. I sit down on the concrete floor, back against the wall, phone still glowing in my hand. How did Eleanor know? How did she see 11 years into the future and understand I would need this exact shield? She bought this warehouse when Lamar was 26, fresh out of grad school, still speaking to me like I was a person instead of a resource to extract value from. She bought it when our daughter was already gone, when the idea of grandchildren seemed impossible. But she bought it anyway. For the little ones, she said. I look up at her sign. Eleanor, my wife, dead 11 years, still protecting me from beyond the grave. I stand slowly, legs shaking. I walk to the center of the warehouse and turn in a slow circle. 12,000 square feet of commercial property in an industrial zone that has been quietly gentrifying for a decade. Companies like Prestige Logistics buying up old warehouses to convert into tech offices, logistics hubs, artisan markets. $4.8 million. I have been working 5 jobs, 14 hours a day, sending my son every penny I earn so he can buy Rolex watches and lease Mercedes sedans and dine at restaurants where the wine costs more than my weekly grocery budget. And the entire time I have been wearing the key to a fortune around my neck. I text Leland, need to meet, tonight, important. His response comes in seconds. My place, 8 p.m. I lock the warehouse gates behind me. The key goes back under my shirt, heavy against my chest. I drive back through Pittsburgh in a daze, radio off, windows down, September air cool on my face. Eleanor, she bought this property with quilting money. 15 years of craft fairs. $43,000 that became $4.8 million because she understood something I did not. The future is long, and the people you love will need foundations you build today. I think about the letter in my nightstand, the one I have never opened, the one she wrote 3 days before she died. Maybe it is time, but not yet. First, I need to understand what this warehouse means for the war I am fighting. At 8 p.m., I sit in Leland's apartment. Vince is there too. I tell them about the property, about Eleanor buying it in 2008, about the text message from Prestige Logistics. Leland stares at me for a long moment. Then he starts laughing. Not cruel laughter, relieved laughter. Well, he says, do you understand what you just told me? You own a $4.8 million asset that your son has no idea exists. Eleanor never put it in joint property, I say. Her name was on the deed alone. When she died, it transferred to me through her will. Lamar was copied on the will, but he never read it. He was too busy being important at his new job to care about his mother's estate. This changes everything, Vince says quietly. If Lamar files for guardianship claiming you are financially incapacitated and need protection, you can walk into court and produce proof of a multi-million-dollar asset you have been managing independently for over a decade. It destroys his entire narrative. Leland nods slowly. But we need to be strategic. If we reveal the warehouse too early, Lamar will adjust his approach. We hold this card until the exact right moment. I look at these 2 men helping me. When is the right moment? When he thinks he has already won, Leland says. I drive home that night with the key still warm against my chest. I park in my driveway, sit in the dark truck, and stare at my small house in Squirrel Hill. $4.8 million. Eleanor's voice in my memory. For the little ones. She knew. She had prepared for this long before I ever understood I would need to fight. Eleanor prepared the warehouse for me 13 years before I needed it. But knowing I have leverage does not stop the exhaustion. At 6:30 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in Northside Pittsburgh, 3 years of working 5 jobs finally catches up with me. I trip unloading a heavy crate and hit the pavement hard enough that my delivery partner thinks I am dying. The fog rolls thick through the narrow streets. My hands slip on the crate handle. My knee buckles. The pavement comes up fast and cold. I hear the crack before I feel the pain. My palms scrape concrete. My shoulder takes the impact. The crate tumbles sideways, cardboard splitting. Mr. Stone, Zephyr Perkins, 28. My delivery partner for the past 6 months rushes over. His face is young and terrified. He thinks I am having a heart attack. I'm fine, I say, but my voice comes out wrong. Breathless. You're not fine, Zephyr says. He kneels beside me. Should I call an ambulance? No, just help me up. The pavement is cold and wet. My hands are scraped raw. Zephyr's face hovers above me, genuine concern written across every line. He thinks he is witnessing tragedy. He has no idea he is about to build my son's case. Zephyr helps me to my feet. I lean against the truck, catching my breath. My shoulder throbs. My hands sting. But nothing is broken. Maybe you should go to the hospital, Zephyr says. I'm 67 years old, I tell him. I've had worse falls in my own kitchen. He looks unconvinced, but lets it go. We finish the route together. He carries the heavy crates. I handle paperwork and signatures. We do not talk about it again. I do not think about it again either. Not until 3 days later when Leland shows me the video. We sit at the security desk Saturday night, 2 a.m., our usual shift. Leland pulls out his phone without warning. Ray, he says quietly, you need to see this. The video plays on his screen, shaky footage clearly shot on a phone. Me lying on wet pavement, Zephyr rushing over. The timestamp reads, Wednesday, 6:47 a.m. The caption, this old man works 5 jobs and still falls down, someone give him a break. Below it, 43,000 views, 6,200 likes, 890 comments. I read the comments. They are kind. Someone help this man. This breaks my heart. Why is he working so hard at his age? Every comment is compassion. Every view is sympathy. Zephyr posted it, Leland says. Wednesday afternoon. It went viral in the Pittsburgh community within hours. You need to understand what a viral video means in a guardianship case. 43,000 witnesses to your decline. It does not matter that they are feeling compassion, not concern. It does not matter that they see an exhausted man, not an incompetent one. What matters is that a judge will see evidence of physical frailty documented and timestamped. Your son found it, Leland continues. He swipes to show me a screenshot, a text message thread between Lamar and a contact labeled Morrison and Webb Legal. Lamar's message sent Thursday morning. Can we use this video as exhibit evidence of failing physical and cognitive health? 43,000 views equals credible documentation. The response, absolutely. Forward link. Will archive before he can request takedown. I stare at the phone. 43,000 strangers felt sorry for me. My own son was using it to pull the trap tighter. Zephyr has no idea, I say quietly. No. Leland agrees. He was trying to help. He thought maybe someone would see the video and offer you a break. Instead, he handed your son ammunition. I hand the phone back. My hands are steady. That surprises me. What do we do? I ask. Nothing, Leland says. The video is already archived. Trying to take it down now makes you look like you are hiding evidence. We document it, add it to our file, and prepare counter-evidence showing you are perfectly capable. Sunday morning, I attend St. Michael's Church in Oakland, like I do every week after my overnight shift ends. I have been coming here for 15 years. Same pew, 3rd row from the back left side. Pastor Robert Dunn knows me by name. So does half the congregation. After the service, Pastor Robert catches my eye. He gestures toward his office. Something is wrong. His office is small and quiet, lined with bookshelves and smelling faintly of old paper. He closes the door behind us. Raymond. He says he is one of the few people who use my full middle name. I need to tell you something. I sit. He sits across from me, hands folded on his desk. Your son came to see me last Tuesday, Pastor Robert says. He is 63, gray-haired, calm in the way people who have spent 40 years listening to confessions are calm. He said he was deeply worried about you, said you have been showing signs of confusion, forgetting names, failing to recognize long-time parishioners. My stomach tightens. He asked me, Pastor Robert continues, to sign an affidavit stating that I have personally witnessed your cognitive decline during Sunday services. The air in the small office feels thick. What did you say? I ask. I told him no. Pastor Robert says simply, I told him that you are one of the sharpest men in this congregation, that you remember every prayer and every sermon, and that if he was genuinely concerned about your health, he should speak to you directly instead of approaching your community behind your back. Relief washes over me like cold water. Then I told him to leave my office. Pastor Robert adds, and I am telling you now because your son is building a narrative about you, Raymond, and there is not a shred of truth in it. I sit in silence for a long moment. Do you want me to intervene? Pastor Robert asks. I can call him. I can make it clear that his behavior is unacceptable. No, I say. Act normal. Don't let Lamar know we spoke. If this goes to court, I need you as a witness, not as someone he can claim is biased against him. Pastor Robert nods slowly. When the time comes, I will be there, he promises. I drive home that afternoon, thinking about evidence and narratives. Lamar is building his case brick by brick. Viral videos, fake social workers, church pastors. But he is making one critical mistake. The people who actually know me are refusing to lie. The people who know me are refusing to lie. But I need more than honest witnesses. I need a lawyer who can turn honesty into armor. On Monday, during my lunch break, sitting alone in the 12th floor cafeteria with complex legal printouts spread across the table, the corporate office manager, Diane Foster, walks over and says, Herbert, what's wrong? I look up. Diane Foster has worked on this floor for 8 years. I have cleaned these offices for 2. We exchange pleasantries during my evening shift. She works late. I work nights, our paths cross in empty hallways. She has always been kind, but we are not friends. We occupy different worlds. Just reading, I say. She glances at the papers. I see her eyes track the headers. Pennsylvania Guardianship Code, Elder Financial Exploitation, Morrison and Webb Legal. Herbert, she says quietly, sitting down across from me without asking. I've seen you reading those papers for 3 days now. What's wrong? Sometimes your salvation comes from the people who see you when you are invisible. The office manager who notices the janitor reading legal documents during lunch. The delivery partner who rushes to help when you fall. The pastor who refuses to lie. I tell her. Bare bones. My son claims I owe him money for a business debt that never existed. He drained his dead mother's company account. Now he is building a guardianship case to take legal control of my life. I have maybe 4 weeks before he files. Diane listens without interrupting. When I finish, she leans forward. I have a close friend from law school, she says. Belinda Phelps. She specializes exclusively in asset fraud and estate protection. If what you are telling me is accurate, she will want to see you. Diane pulls out her phone. Right there at the cafeteria table, surrounded by the smell of microwaved lunches and vending machine coffee, she makes the call. Belinda, it's Diane Foster. I need you to see someone. Emergency consultation. Yes, I know your calendar is full. Trust me on this one. A pause. Diane looks at me. Thursday at 3 p.m., she says. Can you make that? I nod. He'll be there, Diane says into the phone. She hangs up, writes an address on a napkin, slides it across to me. 18th floor Grant Street. Don't be late. And Herbert, bring everything. Every document your son ever sent you. Every bank statement. Every receipt. Everything. That night, after my grocery shift ends, I go to the library. I look up Belinda Phelps on the computer. 28 years in practice. Exclusive focus on elder financial exploitation and estate fraud. 94% success rate in contested guardianship hearings. Partner at Phelps and Morrison Legal, Wait, different Morrison. Not the one Lamar hired. I stare at her photograph on the firm website. Professional headshot. Gray suit. Serious expression. The kind of lawyer who charges more per hour than I make in a week. I close the browser. I drive home. For the first time in 3 weeks, I sleep past my alarm. Thursday at 2:45 p.m. I stand outside a glass tower on Grant Street, wearing my cleanest shirt and pants that still smell faintly of diesel. The lobby is all marble and polished steel. A security guard directs me to the 18th floor. The elevator ride takes 43 seconds. I count each one. My hands are clean but calloused. The decades of hard labor are written into every line, every scar, every crooked knuckle. I'm about to sit across from someone who exists in a completely different world. The law offices of Belinda Phelps occupy half the 18th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the Allegheny River. The receptionist expects me. She leads me to a corner office with a view that stretches all the way to the North Shore. Belinda Phelps, 52, stands when I enter. Gray suit, firm handshake. She gestures to a chair across from her desk. "Mr. Stone," she says, "Diane told me you have a complicated situation. Start from the beginning. Take as much time as you need. I talk for 45 minutes straight. Eleanor's death. Lamar's debt claim. 3 years of working 5 jobs. The discovery at the library. Eleanor's Craft Supply, LLC. The fake social workers. The viral video. Pastor Robert's warning. The warehouse property worth millions that Lamar does not know exists." Belinda listens without interrupting once. She takes notes on a yellow legal pad. Her pen moves steadily across the page. When I finish, she sets the pen down flat on the desk. The silence stretches for 10 seconds. "Mr. Stone." She finally says, "What you have described constitutes at least 4 distinct state and federal felony offenses. Corporate identity theft, elder financial exploitation, wire fraud, filing a fraudulent guardianship petition with falsified evidence. Each carries prison time." She leans back in her chair. "We can dismantle this completely," she continues. "But I need you to do something incredibly difficult. Do not change your behavior. Keep working all 5 jobs. Keep bringing him dinner. Keep sending him checks with little notes. Act completely normal. Do not let him know you are preparing for war. Not until I tell you to stop." "And how long?" I ask. "So 4 weeks, she says. "Maybe 5. I need to build an airtight case. When we move decisively. If we tip our hand early, he will adjust his strategy. I need him confident. I need him sloppy." She opens a folder, slides a contract across the desk. "My retainer is $20,000, she says. "But given the value of your warehouse property and the strength of your case, I am willing to work on contingency with a deferred fee structure. You pay nothing up front. If we win, and we will win, my fee comes from the restitution we extract from your son." I stare at the contract. "When do we start?" I ask. "We already have," Belinda says. I walk out of her office at 4 p.m. My warehouse shift starts at 5. I get into my truck, turn the key, and for the first time in a month, I smile. Not because I am relieved, but because I know exactly where the road is leading. Armed with elite legal protection, the war enters its next phase. On Tuesday afternoon, Leland spreads surveillance photographs across his car dashboard and says, "Ray, your son just committed federal forgery, and he was stupid enough to do it in a parking garage where we had eyes on him. We sit in his sedan parked 3 blocks from the building I clean. Rain hammers the roof." The photographs are high-resolution shot with telephoto lenses from multiple angles. Monday evening. Leland says, tapping the first photo. Whitfield Group Headquarters parking garage. Your son meets his wife Estefania after her executive shift. The image shows my son standing beside a black Mercedes briefcase open on the hood. Estefania stands across from him in a business suit, her expression tired. He hands her a stack of documents. Leland continues sliding the next photo across. Thick stack. Legal-size paper. She's used to signing corporate briefs all day, muscle memory. She skims the top pages and signs without reading the fine print. The surveillance photograph shows Estefania signing with her Mont Blanc pen, the same one she probably uses for million-dollar contracts. She has no idea she's signing her name to fraud. Standard executive oversight, Leland says. You sign 50 documents a day, you stop reading each word. Lamar knows this. He counts on it. The next photo shows Lamar sliding the documents back into his briefcase, casual, like they just finalized dinner reservations. T2. Here's where it gets interesting, Leland says. He pulls out a different set of photographs, extreme close-ups, enhanced and sharpened. Vince got clean shots of the document pages while Estefania was signing. Took us 2 days to enhance the resolution, but we got readable text. I lean forward. Preliminary guardianship filing, Leland says. Petition to declare you legally incapacitated and assign guardianship authority to your son. Standard forms. Estefania's signature appears on 6 pages total. He pauses. Orte, but here's the problem. We watched her sign 3 pages, top, middle, bottom of the stack. She never touched the internal documents, yet her signature appears on all 6. He slides a forensic blow-up across the dashboard. 2 signatures side by side. Both say Estefania Whitfield Stone, but they look different. One is smooth, confident. The other is careful, hesitant, the pen strokes slightly uneven. Your son forged his wife's signature on a court filing, Leland says quietly. Do you know what that means, Ray? This isn't just a civil dispute anymore. This is criminal forgery. This is a federal felony threshold. You need to understand, forging a signature on a court document is not like faking a permission slip. It is 18 U.S.C. Section 1001 federal false statements, up to 5 years in prison per count. And Lamar did it 3 times on the same filing. He was so desperate. I say, staring at the clumsy forgeries, he could not even forge her signature well. Desperation makes people sloppy. Leland agrees. And sloppy people leave evidence. He gathers the photographs into a folder, hands it to me. Belinda needs to see these immediately. This changes the entire legal strategy. We are not just defending against a guardianship petition anymore. We are documenting active federal crimes. I take the folder. The rain continues hammering the roof. Through the fogged windows, Pittsburgh looks gray and cold. Does Estefania know, I ask, that he forged her signature? Almost certainly not. She thinks she signed legitimate family support documents. When she finds out the truth, Ray, she is going to be the prosecution's best witness. Friday evening. My warehouse shift in the Strip District is winding down. I am logging the final inventory counts when Marsden Watson, the warehouse manager, calls me into his small glass office. Marsden, 45, built like a linebacker, sits behind his desk and spits his toothpick into the trash can. One son is searching. He says, we need to talk. I sit. Last week, Marsden says, smooth-talking young guy came by the loading docks. Suit and tie. Expensive watch. Asked questions about you. My stomach tightens. Chith. He wanted to know, Marsden continues, if you nod off during shifts, if you miss log entries, if you seem confused about procedures. Told me his dad was getting a bit senile and he was just so worried about your safety out here. Marsden leans back in his chair. I recognized him, he says. From that family photo you showed me 3 years ago. Your son, right, the one who went to Princeton? Yes, I say quietly. Marsden nods. Figured. So I told him Mr. Stone is the most reliable man on my floor. Perfect attendance for 3 years. 0 safety incidents. Best log accuracy in the building. Then I told him to get the hell off my property before I called the cops for trespassing. I stare at him. He asked me if I would sign a statement about your performance. Marsden continues. I said, sure, I will write that statement right now, but I do not think it will say what you want it to say. Marsden pulls a piece of paper from his desk drawer, slides it across. It is a typed letter on warehouse letterhead. To whom it may concern, I read aloud. Herbert Stone has been employed at this facility for 3 years. His work performance is exemplary. He has never shown signs of confusion, memory impairment, or unsafe behavior. Any claims to the contrary are false and defamatory. Signed, Marsden Watson, Warehouse Operations Manager. I look up. Your kid is building a case against you, Marsden says. I do not know why, and I do not need to know. But nobody comes onto my floor and asks me to lie about my people. I fold the letter carefully, put it in my pocket. Thank you, I say. Do not thank me, Marsden says. Just keep showing up on time like you always do. And if your son comes back, I will document that too. I shake Marsden's hand. I do not say much, but my list of witnesses just grew by 1. That night, sitting in Leland's apartment, I lay out everything. The forged signatures, Marsden's refusal to cooperate, Pastor Robert's warning, Viola's photograph of the fake social worker, Diane's referral to Belinda. Your son is making mistakes faster than I can count them, Leland says. Forging his wife's signature, attempting to suborn false witnesses. Each crime compounds the last. And the people he is trying to corrupt are documenting every attempt and calling you instead. How long until he files, I ask. 3 weeks, Leland estimates. Maybe less. But Ray, when he does, we will be ready. While my network of loyal witnesses expanded, Leland and Vince focused heavily on the financial trail, looking for cold numbers that Lamar could never wiggle out of. On Saturday morning, Leland spread 23 bank withdrawal slips across his dining table. Ray, your son, has been forging your signature for 18 months, Leland said. $47,000 in federal bank fraud. Leland's home office had become an investigator's war room, covered in documents, timeline charts, and forensic binders. Vince sat across from me, his spreadsheet glowing. The old PNC Bank savings account you opened for Eleanor in 1987. Vince explained, sliding a printout over. 23 counter-withdrawals over 18 months ranging from $800 to $4,500. Totaling $47,000. I stared at the numbers. I had never authorized them, nor did I know the online password. Leland pulled out scanned teller slips. The signatures looked like mine, but they weren't. The capital H has a different angle, and the S loops too wide, Leland noted. A handwriting analyst will spot these instantly. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 1344, federal bank fraud carries up to 30 years in prison. 30 years. Lamar was 38. He would be 68 when released. My age now. I didn't want my son caged, but he had to be stopped permanently. Belinda needs these immediately, Leland said, sliding the documents into an envelope. Counting Lamar's felonies, we had corporate identity theft, elder exploitation, 23 counts of bank fraud, 3 counts of document forgery on the guardianship filing, and attempted suborning of false witnesses. On Monday, I took initiative. I scheduled an in-person meeting with Scott Hargrove at Prestige Logistics Corp. Their North Shore offices overlooked PNC Park. "Mr. Stone, we've been trying to reach you for 3 weeks," Scott said, opening a portfolio. He explained that a man representing the Stone estate had attempted to negotiate an immediate cash buyout of our East Side warehouse using a notarized power of attorney. Scott slid the document over. The signature looked like mine, but their legal team had compared it to Eleanor's original 2008 deed. The discrepancies were clear. The new signature was careful, hesitant, and wrong. "We suspended negotiations," Scott said. "Who was that representative?" "My son," I replied. After a long silence, Scott asked if I still wished to sell. I agreed, provided we did it directly with clean terms and no intermediaries. We shook hands. Eleanor's warehouse was in play. That evening I presented everything to Belinda. She listened, then smiled coldly. "Your son tried to steal a $4.8 million property using a forged document walking straight into a corporate legal team," she said. "He is writing his own indictment." "When do we move?" I asked. "Soon," Belinda answered. "Let him file his guardianship petition. Let him walk into court confident. Then we will dismantle him piece by piece." Driving home, I thought about 30 years and my son's notarized lies. His greed is writing his own indictment, one forged signature at a time. But while I had been documenting crimes against Eleanor's warehouse, Lamar was planning something closer to home. On Wednesday afternoon, Viola called, her voice urgent. "Herbert, there's a car parked 3 houses down," she said. "A man inside has been photographing your property for 4 days straight." I was at the hardware store halfway through my afternoon shift, so I stepped into the back stockroom. Viola described a dark blue sedan with Pennsylvania plates. The driver was using professional camera equipment to capture my house from every angle. "I'm going outside to get his license plate," Viola whispered. Through the line, I heard footsteps and the click of her phone camera photographing the photographer. She read off the plate Echo Bravo 7429 and sent me the photo. I immediately relayed the plate number to Leland. While waiting for his call back, I stared at the stockroom walls, thinking of this house. Eleanor and I bought it in 1989. We argued over bedroom paint. She planted her favorite yellow roses, and Lamar learned to walk on the front porch. Now someone was calculating its liquidation value. 28 minutes later, Leland called back. "The vehicle is registered to Apex Realty Brokerage, a discount liquidation agency specializing in fast estate sales at 70% market value. Someone hired them to appraise it. Your son plans to sell your home the moment he gets that guardianship order. A home of 36 years is not just walls. It is every memory, every mark measuring a child's height, the creaking floorboards, and Eleanor's roses. My son was measuring all of it for profit." "I need to call Belinda," I said. Belinda answered on the second ring. When I explained the surveillance, she agreed we had to move faster. "The irrevocable trust documents," Belinda said. "I've been drafting them for 2 weeks. They transfer legal ownership of all assets, the warehouse, your home, your savings, into an irrevocable trust, with you as the lifetime beneficiary. Once executed, those assets are untouchable. Even with guardianship, the trustee controls them, not Lamar." "Who is the trustee?" I asked. "Chandler, your granddaughter. We'll name a professional co-trustee until she turns 18, but the beneficial ownership belongs to her, the way Eleanor intended." We scheduled the signing for Monday morning at 9 o'clock in her office. She requested 2 non-family witnesses, so I chose Leland and Pastor Robert. Belinda reassured me that Vince was monitoring court filings. Lamar hadn't submitted the petition yet. He thought he had time, but he only had 4 days. That night, I drove past the blue sedan. I saw the driver's silhouette in the fading October light. As I walked to my front door, I heard his camera shutter click from 50 feet away. Inside the house smelled of old wood and Eleanor's roses. Standing at the kitchen sink, I knew my hands were steady. 4 days. 4 days to lock my assets before Lamar files. But before I sign legal documents, I need to face the one thing I have been avoiding for 11 years. On Friday night, alone in my bedroom with a single yellow desk lamp, I finally opened the letter Eleanor left me, the quarter-folded piece of paper I have been too afraid to read because I knew it would change everything. The envelope sits in my nightstand drawer, where it has lived since 2014. I have moved it aside 10,000 times to reach other things: spare reading glasses, chapstick, the TV remote. Every time my fingers brush the worn paper, every time I close the drawer, tonight I open it. The paper unfolds in 4 careful creases. Eleanor's handwriting fills both sides in blue ink, elegant but shaky, the tremor from the medications visible in every loop. She wrote this 3 days before she died. I know because the date is at the top, May 17th, 2014. Writes it begins. She is the only person besides Leland who calls me that. I worry about our boy. He has a brilliant mind, sharper than mine ever was, sharper than yours. But he lacks the single most vital trait a human being can possess. He does not value the people who bleed for him. I have watched him these past few years, the way he talks about you when you are not in the room, the way he measures everything in dollars and status. I hoped it was a phase. Young men go through seasons of arrogance. But Ray, I do not think this is a phase. I think this is who he chose to become. My hands shake. The paper trembles in the lamplight. Chayo. The East Side warehouse property. You know, the lot I bought in 2008 with my craft money. You thought I was being foolish, spending our emergency fund on industrial real estate. But Ray, I bought it because I could see the future more clearly than you gave me credit for. That warehouse must belong to a trust for the little ones later. Never let anyone strip them of their future, no matter how convincing the argument sounds. I stop reading. Close my eyes. Breathe. You have to understand, Eleanor was not just writing a letter. She was building a fortress 11 years in advance, brick by brick, instruction by instruction. I keep reading. And Ray, if the day comes where you must fight him, and I fear it will fight only with the absolute truth. Do not embellish. Do not exaggerate. Do not try to make yourself look better than you are. The truth is the only weapon that never requires an apology. The truth stands on its own, and it outlasts every lie. The letter continues for another page. Instructions about the warehouse deed. The name of her attorney. A post office box number where she kept backup documents I never knew existed. The final line. I love you more than words can carry. You are the best man I have ever known. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Your Eleanor. I fold the letter carefully along its original creases. Press it against my chest. Sit in the dark for hours. She knew. 11 years ago, while Lamar was 27 and freshly minted from business school, Eleanor saw his trajectory. She watched him measure people in spreadsheets. She heard him talk about me like I was a resource to be optimized, and she quietly, methodically left me the exact coordinates of survival. Before I tell you what happened, Monday morning, are you still with me? Comment your honest reaction to Eleanor's letter in one sentence. I want to know if you see what I see. A quick note, the next part includes some dramatized details added for emotional impact, but the core truth stands. If that is not for you, you can stop here. Monday morning, 10 a.m., I sit in Belinda Phelps's office on the 18th floor overlooking the Allegheny River. Belinda slides a document across her desk. Final irrevocable trust agreement, she says. Execution draft. Read every word. Take your time. I read every single clause with methodical precision. It takes 40 minutes. The document transfers every asset I own out of my name and into a closed trust. The warehouse, my home, my savings accounts, everything. The beneficiary Chandler Stone, my 9-year-old granddaughter. The structure is irrevocable, cannot be modified, cannot be revoked, cannot be accessed by anyone including me. I sign on page 12. The notary stamps the sheets immediately. The sound, that solid mechanical thunk, just locked away everything Lamar thought he could take. As of this exact moment, Belinda says Herbert Lamar has absolutely nothing left to steal. Even if he somehow wins a guardianship order, he will have legal authority over you maybe, but not over your property, not over Chandler's inheritance. The trust owns it now. He cannot touch it. Ever. I stand. Shake her hand. Walk out of the high-rise into crisp Pittsburgh autumn air. My phone buzzes. A text message from Lamar. Hey Dad, I need to go over some important health and legacy paperwork with you this weekend. There are some documents that need your signature for estate planning purposes. Can we meet Saturday afternoon? Maybe at your place, I'll bring lunch. I stare at the message. Health and legacy paperwork. Estate planning purposes. He is going to try to get me to sign the guardianship documents, probably buried in a stack of legitimate-looking papers. Sign here, Dad, and here, and here. Just routine stuff. Do not worry about reading it all, except there is nothing left to sign away. The warehouse is gone. Transferred this morning to an irrevocable trust. The house is gone. Same trust. The savings account's every dollar locked beyond his reach as of 10:17 a.m. today. I type back, "Sure, son. Saturday works. See you then." I put my phone away. You are too late, Lamar. The paperwork is already signed. The assets are already gone. And you have no idea. Lamar has no idea the paperwork is signed and the assets are gone. But while he prepares his attack for Saturday, I need to collect the pieces Eleanor left scattered across 11 years. On Tuesday afternoon, I drive to Bethel Park to find Harry Sutton, the man who worked beside me for 23 years in the Pittsburgh steel mills, the man my wife trusted with her final secret. Harry lives in a modest ranch house on a quiet street where American flags hang from every third porch. I have not seen him in 2 years. The steel mills closed in 2003. We drifted after that the way men do when work is the only thread holding them together. I knock. He opens the door, squints at me through thick glasses, then his face breaks into recognition. "Ray," he says. "Jesus, Ray, is that you? It's me, Harry." He pulls me into a hug. His hands shake slightly, age, maybe arthritis. 23 years we stood shoulder to shoulder in those mills, breathing steel dust and heat. He kept Eleanor's secret for over a decade without a word. "Come in," he says. "I've been expecting you. You have..." And Eleanor told me to hand something to you only when you absolutely needed it. Harry says, leading me down a narrow hallway to his bedroom. I figure that time is right now. He kneels slowly, painfully, and opens a compact, fireproof safe in his bedroom closet. Inside sits a thick, pristine envelope sealed with red wax. Eleanor's handwriting on the front, for Raymond Stone, to be opened when necessary. Harry hands it to me. "Original copy of Eleanor's last will and testament," he says. Signed 2009. 2 independent witnesses. I was one of them. The other was her attorney, Margaret Holloway, but she passed away in 2017. I break the seal. The document inside is legal-size paper, professionally drafted, notarized. I read the critical paragraph 3 times. I, Eleanor Marie Stone, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath the entirety of my interest in the commercial property located at 847 Industrial Avenue, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15207, to a protective trust to be established for the benefit of any grandchildren born after my death. This property shall bypass my son Lamar Stone entirely and shall not be subject to claims by creditors, spouses, or legal guardians. The trustee shall be appointed by my husband Raymond Stone at his sole discretion. How did Eleanor see so far into the future? How did she know 11 years before this moment exactly what I would need? She asked me to hold this far away from the house, Harry says quietly. She said, just in case Lamar looks through drawers when I'm gone, I take the envelope. My wife was fighting for me from 11 years in the grave. Thank you, Harry, I say. You in some kind of trouble, Ray? I say, but I'm handling it. Saturday afternoon arrives. I drive to the Meridian Building, downtown Park, in visitor parking, take the elevator to the 14th floor. I knock on Lamar's door at exactly 2 p.m. The door swings open. My granddaughter Chandler, 9 years old, throws her arms around me with a force that nearly knocks the wind from my chest. She still believes in goodness. She still thinks adults tell the truth. Grandpa, she shouts. Hey, sweetheart. I say, kneeling to hug her properly. Lamar walks out from the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing that he will be just a minute. He looks relaxed, confident. A man who thinks he holds all the cards. Chandler pulls me into the corner of the living room where her toys are scattered. She whispers, barely audible. Grandpa, yesterday I was watching cartoons on my tablet in my room, and Daddy was talking really loud in the living room with another man. He sounded scary. I hit the voice recorder button because I was frightened. I want you to hear it. She hands me her tablet. I slide on the small pink headphones. Lamar's voice fills my ears, unmistakable. Why need to prove the old man lacks independent capacity? The medical assessments we arranged will show progressive cognitive decline. We file the petition 3 weeks from Tuesday, which gives us time to line up all the supporting affidavits. Another voice, older, clinical, Attorney Morrison. And the house appraisal, already done, Lamar says. Apex Realty values it at $320,000. We can liquidate within 2 weeks of guardianship approval. The warehouse property is the bigger prize, $4.8 million. We move that through a shell trust I control, extract the proceeds over 18 months to avoid tax flags. What about the daughter? Chandler. She's 9. Courts don't listen to 9-year-olds. And Estefania will support whatever I say. She trusts me. I keep my face perfectly smooth. No reaction, no tell. I take off the headphones, hug Chandler. You did perfectly, sweetheart, I whisper. Can I keep this recording? She nods. I transfer the audio file to my phone. 43 minutes of Lamar and Morrison planning the entire fraud in explicit detail. Timeline, dollar amounts, strategy, all of it. Lamar walks back into the living room, sliding his phone into his pocket. Oh, you're here, Dad, he says, surprised. Why didn't you ring the bell? I stand slowly, offering a vacant smile. I forgot, I say softly. You know how my memory is lately. Lamar chuckles, completely satisfied. He thinks I am exactly what he told Morrison. I am a declining old man, confused, easy to manipulate. No problem, Dad, he says. Come sit down. I brought lunch. We need to go over some paperwork. He gestures to the dining table where a stack of documents sits beside deli sandwiches and bottled water. I sit. I eat half a sandwich. I nod and smile while he explains various forms that need my signature for estate planning purposes. I sign nothing. Actually, Lamar, I say after 20 minutes. I'm feeling a bit tired. Can we do this another day? Maybe I should take these home and read them carefully first. Sure, Dad. Lamar says, disappointment flickering across his face. Take your time. No rush. I hug Chandler goodbye. She squeezes me tight. I drive home with the audio file on my phone. That night I send it to Leland, then to Belinda Phelps. I sit in my kitchen with Eleanor's original will on the table and Chandler's recording on my phone. My 9-year-old granddaughter, frightened innocent trying to record a cartoon on her tablet, just handed me the silver bullet that will destroy my son's entire scheme. Chandler's recording gave me 43 minutes of Lamar planning fraud in his own voice. But audio alone is not enough. Courts want paper trails, forensic evidence numbers that do not lie. The subpoena arrived 72 hours after Chandler's recording, and I held the single-page document like it was the Dead Sea Scrolls, because in family court, bank records do not lie, and liars cannot hide behind charm when federal documentation starts talking. Monday morning, October 20th, I meet Belinda at her Strip District office. She slides the approved subpoena across her desk. Ha PNC Bank, she says. Court-ordered disclosure of all transaction records for your legacy savings account. Every withdrawal, every signature, every IP address and geolocation tag. She gestures to a woman sitting beside her desk with a laptop open. This is Lauren Briggs, bank fraud analyst. I have retained her as our expert witness. Lauren, mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses, the efficient manner of someone who spends days staring at spreadsheets, nods at me. Mr. Stone. She says, once we get these records, the paper trail will reveal everything. Signature forgeries, we can prove those through forensic handwriting analysis. IP addresses will show where the transactions originated. Withdrawal patterns will demonstrate systematic theft over time. This is irrefutable technical evidence that your son acted alone without your knowledge or consent. I feel the walls closing in on Lamar from all sides. Not just emotional evidence now. Financial forensics, numbers, timestamps, digital fingerprints. My son stole from me twice my trust and my money. But he forgot I worked construction for 31 years, where every nail gets counted and every measurement matters. Lauren turns her laptop toward me. The screen displays a sample transaction log from a similar case she worked. Just to see these timestamps, she says, pointing. 3:47 a.m. If we can prove you were verifiably elsewhere at that time, asleep at work, anywhere with an alibi, the forgery becomes obvious. I lean forward. The spreadsheet cells glow with cold, numeric certainty. Each row is a theft. Each column is a lie. And geolocation data, Lauren continues, will show the IP address where the online banking session originated. If it is coming from your son's home address while you were somewhere else, that is prosecutable evidence. I reach out and touch the subpoena. The court seal is raised, embossed into the heavy paper. I can feel the authority in it. The weight. Belinda's office smells like fresh ink and old law books. The scent of accountability finally arriving. When do we get the records? I ask. 10 business days, Belinda says. PNC has to comply within 2 weeks of service. We will have everything by early November. Meanwhile, across town, in a place I have never seen, something else is happening. Cassius Whitfield sits in his penthouse office on the 40th floor of Whitfield Group headquarters, staring at a private investigator's report. He commissioned the background check 3 weeks ago, not because he suspected fraud, not yet, but because he noticed concerning financial patterns in the Whitfield Group division Lamar oversees, small discrepancies, expense reports that did not quite add up. Nothing provable, just off. The investigator's report is thorough. Page 4 contains the detail that changes everything. Subject's father, Herbert Raymond Stone, age 67, owns commercial warehouse property at 847 Industrial Avenue, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15207. Assessed value $4.8 million. Acquired outright in 2008. No mortgage. No liens. Clear title. Cassius reads that paragraph 3 times. $4.8 million. Owned outright since 2008. No mortgage. He thinks about every conversation he has had with Lamar over the past 2 years. The narrative Lamar carefully constructed: broke father, financial dependent, cognitive decline, constant need for support. I am basically supporting him, Lamar said once over scotch at the Pittsburgh club. My father made some bad decisions after my mother died. Lost most of his savings. Now I am the one keeping the lights on for him. Cassius believed it. Why would he not? Lamar was articulate, polished, ambitious. He talked about family duty with such conviction. But a man who owns nearly $5 million in commercial real estate debt-free is not a broke dependent failure. One of these facts makes the other a lie. Cassius pours himself an 18-year Macallan. The amber liquid catches the afternoon light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. He stares out at the Pittsburgh skyline. He built his empire on reading people, on spotting integrity versus performance, on separating substance from polish. Lamar had seemed golden, articulate, ambitious, family-oriented, always talking about supporting his wife's father, about making sure the old man was taken care of. But now the data contradicts the story. Cassius thinks of his own estranged daughter. They have not spoken in 6 years. He wonders if he misjudged Lamar's character, because Lamar reflected what Cassius wanted to see: a son figure to mentor the child he lost when his daughter stopped taking his calls. The whiskey tastes like expensive regret. He picks up his phone, dials a number he found in the investigator's report. I leave Belinda's office at 2:30 p.m. The subpoena is filed. The expert witness is retained. Chandler's recording is transcribed and cataloged. Eleanor's original will is copied and notarized. Every piece is in place. I check my phone as I walk to my truck. One missed call. Unknown Pittsburgh number. Voicemail waiting. I press play. Mr. Stone, this is Cassius Whitfield. I believe we need to speak about your son and my company. I have concerns. Please call me at your earliest convenience. My direct line is, I check the timestamp, October 22nd, 2:34 p.m., 16 minutes ago. My heart pounds. Cassius Whitfield, the billionaire, Lamar's father-in-law, the man whose wealth and status Lamar has been weaponizing against me for years, the ultimate patron, the final protector, and he is calling me directly. Not through lawyers, not through Estefania, not through corporate channels. Man to man. I stare at the phone number on my screen. My thumb hovers over the callback button. Behind me, Strip District traffic roars. Trucks and cars and the noise of a working neighborhood. In front of me, the most powerful man in Lamar's world waits for an answer. Either I'm about to be threatened by a tycoon's legal team, or the king just realized he crowned a fraud. I press call. The phone rings twice before Cassius Whitfield answers. His voice is measured professional, the tone of a man who built empires by reading people. Hello, Mr. Stone, I will be direct. I know about your warehouse property. I know my son-in-law told me you were financially dependent on his charity. One of those facts makes the other a lie, and I do not tolerate liars in my family or my business. We talk for 18 minutes. I tell him nothing he cannot verify independently. When the call ends, Cassius says one thing. We will speak again soon, in person. 2 days later, Viola called me at dawn with 2 words: she knows. I am at my kitchen table, coffee halfway to my lips. She knows what? Morrison and Webb Legal sent Estefania a formal letter. Viola says, breathless, requesting signature confirmation on guardianship affidavits, documents she never saw, never signed. The letter arrived this morning. I watched her open it on her terrace through my telephoto lens. Her hands are shaking. I set my coffee down carefully. Where is she now? Still reading? Viola says. Wait, Lamar just walked out onto the terrace. He sees the letter. His face, oh Herbert, his face just went white. I hear Viola's breath catch. She is yelling, Viola whispers. I cannot hear the words, but she is yelling. Lamar is trying to calm her down. She just threw the letter at him. Estefania's confusion turned to horror the moment she read that letter. Documents bearing her signature, court filings she never saw, legal instruments she never touched. Her husband forged her name on federal documents. What is Lamar saying? I ask. Viola pauses. He is gesturing, defensive. Wait, I can read his lips. He just said something about protecting her, about your dementia, about Chandler's future. Estefania's response must have been clear, because Viola whispers, she just said felony. I saw the word. You forged my signature on court documents. That is a felony, Lamar. A felony. I stand at my kitchen window, watching October rain streak the glass, thinking about the woman who discovered she married a forger. Estefania was collateral damage. She loved a ghost and married a fraud. She never stood a chance against Lamar's performance, just like I had not. Viola calls again 3 hours later. Home she left, Viola says. Drove straight to an Oakland Starbucks parking lot. Sat in her car for 20 minutes. Then made a phone call. My plate reader flagged her next stop Hargrove and Associates building on 6th Avenue. Grove and Associates, I repeat. Pittsburgh's premier high-asset marital dissolution firm, Viola says. Ramona Hargrove, senior partner. She handled the Rothman divorce 3 years ago. $47 million settlement. I close my eyes. Estefania scheduled an appointment for November 3rd. The billionaire's daughter is divorcing my son, and Lamar has no idea the walls are closing in from every direction. Monday morning, October 27th. I sit in Prestige Logistics conference room on the North Shore. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the Allegheny River. Belinda sits beside me with a leather portfolio full of documents. Scott Brennan, Vice President of Acquisitions, walks in carrying 2 copies of the asset purchase agreement. He is mid-50s gray at the temples, the kind of professional who treats every closing with old-school respect. Mr. Stone, he says, shaking my hand firmly. I have been in commercial real estate for 30 years. I have never seen a cleaner title or a better maintained property. This was a privilege. I sit. Belinda slides the contract toward me. I read every page. It takes 20 minutes. The terms are clear. Sale price $4.8 million. 30% escrow due at signing wired immediately. Remaining balance upon title clearance in 60 days. 30% of $4.8 million is $1.44 million. That money will wire directly into Chandler's irrevocable trust account. Not my name. Not Lamar's reach. Untouchable. I sign on page 17. The wire transfer confirmation appears on Belinda's laptop like a digital fortress wall. $1.44 million. 7 figures. Chandler Stone, sole beneficiary. Numbers that mean Lamar's reach ends here permanently. The wire confirmed, Belinda says quietly. $1.44 million in Chandler's trust. Untouchable. Eleanor's legacy is safe. I think about my wife, about the warehouse she bought in 2008 with quilting money, about the letters she wrote telling me to protect the little ones, about every brick and beam of that building standing guard over our granddaughter's future. Eleanor, I kept my promise. Our granddaughter will never need anything from him. Scott Brennan extends his hand one more time. Congratulations, Mr. Stone, he says. The property transfers to Prestige Logistics as of today. The remaining balance will clear escrow by mid-December. You should be very proud of what you built. My wife built it, I say quietly. I am just making sure it goes where she wanted. I walk out of prestige logistics into crisp October air. The Allegheny River flows gray and steady behind me. Pittsburgh stretches across the hills in every direction. My phone buzzes. An email. Subject line, Lamar Stone / confidential discussion / urgent. Sender Patricia Morrison, executive assistant, to Cassius Whitfield. Mr. Stone. Mr. Whitfield requests an in-person meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, October 28th, at 10 a.m., Whitfield Group Headquarters, 40th floor, Executive Suite. Please confirm your availability at your earliest convenience. This matter is time-sensitive and confidential. I stare at the email. Tomorrow morning, Whitfield Group Headquarters, 40th floor, the billionaire's inner sanctum. I just moved $1.44 million in a single morning. Signed contracts that secure my granddaughter's future. Watched my son's wife discover he is a felon. And now I am walking into a meeting with the most powerful man in Pittsburgh. Not as a broke father-in-law begging for scraps. Not as the confused old man Lamar described to everyone. As a man who owns his own story. I type back, confirmed. I will be there. I put my phone away and start walking toward my truck. Tomorrow I sit down with Cassius Whitfield and tell him the truth about his son-in-law. And the truth, as Eleanor wrote 11 years ago, is the only weapon that never requires an apology. The invitation arrived on Monday, November 3rd. Heavy cardstock, embossed gold lettering. The Whitfield Foundation cordially invites you to the annual Thanksgiving Gala, November 27th, 7 p.m. Grand Ballroom, Omni William Penn Hotel. Black tie optional. I set it on the kitchen counter next to Eleanor's photograph and wondered if she'd ever imagined this me in a tuxedo sitting at a table with Pittsburgh's wealthiest families, while our son plotted to steal what she'd built. 5 days had passed since my meeting with Cassius Whitfield. I'd arrived at his office at 10 a.m. sharp, taken the elevator to the 40th floor, walked past floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Allegheny. His assistant Patricia had shown me into a conference room where Cassius sat alone. No lawyers, no advisors, just a 73-year-old billionaire who'd asked one question. Why should I believe you? I'd handed him the forensic report Lauren Briggs prepared. 23 forged signatures, $47,000 stolen across 18 months. The forged power of attorney Lamar used trying to sell Eleanor's warehouse. The guardianship petition listing Estefania's signature that she'd never signed. Because your daughter didn't know, I said. And when she finds out, she'll need you. Cassius had studied the documents for 11 minutes without speaking. Then he'd looked up. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. I want you to know the truth before the court hearing. That's all. He'd walked me to the door himself. Shook my hand. The Foundation Gala is November 27th. You'll receive an invitation. I'd appreciate you attending. Not a request, an alliance. Now I had the proof in cardstock and gold leaf. Tuesday afternoon, I was replacing a sink trap at the Lawrenceville duplex when Belinda called. Estefania Whitfield just retained Hargrove and Associates, she said. Ramona Hargrove handles high-asset divorces exclusively. She doesn't take cases under $2 million. I tightened the slip nut tested for leaks. How do you know? Because Ramona called me this morning asking if we'd share discovery on the forgery evidence, Belinda said. Estefania saw the Morrison and Webb letter about the guardianship petition. She connected the dots. I dried my hands on my work pants. What did you tell her? Oh, that I'd discuss it with my client, Belinda said. Herbert, this is good for us. If Estefania files first, Lamar loses his credible witness. The court won't believe a son whose wife is divorcing him over fraud. She has children, I said. This will hurt them. So Lamar hurt them, Belinda said quietly. You're just the one who refused to pretend otherwise. Wednesday morning, I drove to the south side for my security shift. Leland was waiting by the loading dock, 2 coffees in hand. "You look tired," he said. "5 jobs," I said. 67 years old. "You do the math." He handed me the coffee. "My daughter called yesterday. Asked if I knew Herbert Stone." Leland had worked fraud investigation for 32 years before retiring. His daughter was a paralegal at Morrison and Webb. "What did you tell her?" "That you're the most honest man I've ever met," Leland said. "And that if your son filed guardianship papers, there's more to the story." He sipped his coffee. "She said the petition lists cognitive decline, fall risk, financial mismanagement. She said Lamar's attorney has hospital records, incident reports, witness statements." "Weasel, he has a TikTok video of me tripping over a hose," I said. "And a warehouse manager who wouldn't lie for him." She also said Estefania came into the office Monday," Leland said. "Wanted to see the guardianship file. When she saw her signature on the consent form, she went pale. Asked for copies of everything. Left without saying a word. I watched a delivery truck back into the bay. She didn't sign it." "When I know," Leland said. "So does she now." That afternoon, Viola Lockwood called. "I need to tell you something," she said. "I met Estefania this morning. At Frick Park. I sat down in my truck. You reached out to her." She reached out to me," Viola said. "Someone gave her my number. She wanted to know about the fake social worker, about Lamar's visits, about you." Viola's voice softened. "Herbert, I told her everything. About the groceries you bought Lamar in college. The car you fixed so he could get to his first job. The tuition you paid when his scholarship didn't cover summer classes. The hospital bills from Eleanor's cancer that you're still paying off." "Viola?" "She didn't know," Viola said. "She thought you were wealthy. She thought Lamar supported himself through school. She thought the warehouse was something Eleanor inherited, not something you both built." Viola paused. "She cried Herbert, right there on the park bench. She said, 'He told me his father was selfish. He told me his father never helped him. He told me his father didn't deserve anything.' I closed my eyes. 18 years of Lamar's marriage, and Estefania had believed a story that turned me into the villain of my own sacrifice." "What did you tell her?" I asked. "The truth," Viola said. "That you're the best father Lamar never deserved." I sat in the truck for 20 minutes after we hung up. The invitation was still on my passenger seat. The Whitfield Foundation Annual Thanksgiving Gala. 7 p.m., black tie optional. Eleanor used to say, the truth didn't need defending it, just needed witnessing. I'd spent 6 weeks gathering evidence, recruiting allies, protecting assets. I'd signed away everything we built to keep it from Lamar's hands. I'd worked myself to exhaustion to afford the fight he'd started. Now his wife knew the cost of his lies. I picked up the invitation. November 27th, 3 weeks away. By then the court hearing would be over, the forensic evidence submitted, the bank records subpoenaed. By then Estefania would have filed divorce papers or decided to stand by the man who'd forged her signature. By then I'd know if the truth was enough. My phone buzzed. Text message from Belinda, emergency hearing moved up. Judge Carrington wants both parties in chambers, Friday, November 7th, 9 a.m. Lamar's attorney filed motion to accelerate based on immediate danger to Ward. 4 days. They were coming faster now. Zephyr Perkins recognized the law firm's name the second he scanned the delivery address, Morrison and Webb Legal, Northside, Pittsburgh. Same outfit Herbert had mentioned 3 weeks ago when Zephyr stopped by to apologize for the TikTok video that went viral. He parked his delivery van at 6:45 Friday morning, grabbed the express envelope marked Priority Court Filing. Inside the lobby, a receptionist barely glanced up. Signature here. Zephyr signed the tablet, then let his phone slip from his pocket while bending to retrieve it. 2 seconds, camera angled at the delivery ledger open on the counter. The notation read, Emergency Guardianship Petition Hearing scheduled November 26, 2025, 9 a.m., Allegheny County Family Court Judge Carrington presiding. He was in his van texting before the receptionist looked up. Morrison and Webb just took express delivery. Ledger shows court filing package expedited status. Photographed everything. I was replacing a water heater in Bloomfield when my phone buzzed. I read Zephyr's message twice, then called Leland. He's timing the guardianship filing to Thanksgiving week, I said. The gala announcement and the court action synchronized. Leland's voice went flat the way it used to when he worked fraud cases. Malice aforethought documented. This gives us premeditation for fraud charges. Meet me at the Northside Diner in 30 minutes. I finished connecting the pressure relief valve, tested for leaks, collected my $75, and drove. The diner booth smelled like burnt coffee and 40 years of bacon grease. Leland spread Zephyr's photographs across Formica, scarred by decades of truck drivers' elbows, evidence laid out where working people eat breakfast, not corporate boardrooms. The timestamp on the delivery ledger read 6:47 a.m. The court docket notation confirmed what I'd already guessed. November 26th, hearing November 27th, gala, Leland said. He wants the judge's signature before the champagne toast. I stared at the photograph. My son had planned this with the precision Eleanor used to plan our anniversary dinners, every detail coordinated, every guest positioned, every moment choreographed for maximum impact. He's not just stealing my granddaughter, I said. He's staging a public execution. Leland poured sugar into coffee that didn't need it. We file counter-petition November 18th. Bank fraud evidence signature forgery witness testimony. Belinda's briefs will hit like a freight train. He looked up. Herbert, you understand what he's attempting. He gets guardianship declared the day before Thanksgiving, then stands up at the Whitfield Foundation Gala in front of 200 of Pittsburgh's wealthiest families and announces he's taken legal custody of his cognitively impaired father. Estefania's family applauds his filial devotion. Cassius Whitfield shakes his hand. The society pages print it Sunday morning. While I'm legally incompetent to contest it, I said. While you're legally incompetent to do anything, Leland said. Can't hire attorneys, can't access bank accounts, can't make medical decisions. He controls Chandler, controls the guardianship, controls the narrative. Leland pushed the photographs toward me. Except he doesn't know about the forensic accountant, the signature analysis, the warehouse sale, or the 43-minute recording his daughter made. I picked up my coffee. It had gone cold. Belinda files November 18th, Leland said. That gives Lamar 8 days to prepare a defense for 23 counts of forgery and $47,000 in documented theft. Judge Carrington will have our evidence packet 72 hours before the hearing. What if the judge doesn't read it? Then Belinda stands up November 26th and asks the court to admit Exhibit A through Exhibit R into evidence. Leland said. Lamar's attorney will object. The judge will overrule, and your son will realize his choreography just collapsed. I drove toward Squirrel Hill, thinking about calendars. 12 days until Thanksgiving. 12 days until Lamar tried to crown himself in front of 200 witnesses who didn't know they were attending an execution that had already been canceled. Eleanor used to mark important dates with red pen on the kitchen calendar. Our anniversary, Lamar's birthday. The day we signed the warehouse lease. She'd believed in commemorating things, the good and the bad both. I wondered what color pen she'd use for November 26th. Saturday afternoon, I picked up Chandler for our weekend visitation. Estefania met me at the door, face carefully neutral. 4 o'clock, she said. Not a minute later, Chandler climbed into my truck carrying her stuffed elephant. We drove to the public park near the synagogue, the one with swings that didn't squeak. November wind scattered leaves across empty playground equipment. I pushed her on the swing for 10 minutes, steady rhythm, her laughter bright against gray sky. Then she dragged her feet in the wood chips, stopped moving, turned to look at me with eyes exactly like Eleanor's. "Ah, Grandpa. Why does Daddy tell everyone you can't remember things?" Her voice was serious, no child's uncertainty. "You remember everything." I knelt in the wood chips at her eye level. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "You remember my exact birthday," Chandler said. June 14th. You remember my favorite colors, purple and silver. You remember my first grade teacher's name was Mrs. Kowalski. You remember everything. The wind cut through my jacket. I reached for her small hands. "I remember everything," I said. "I will always remember you." Chandler nodded with 9-year-old gravity that broke something in my chest. "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I kept the recording for you." I pulled her into an embrace while November wind swept across the empty playground, carrying the smell of dying leaves and approaching winter. She wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered against my shoulder, "I chose you, Grandpa." 4 o'clock, I returned her to the house on Beechwood Boulevard. Estefania took Chandler's hand without meeting my eyes. I drove home through November dusk, watching the rearview mirror. Chandler would be eating dinner now, doing homework, getting ready for bed. In 12 days, Lamar would stand in the Omni William Penn Grand Ballroom and make his announcement, except Judge Carrington would have already seen bank fraud evidence signature forgery documentation and a 9-year-old's recorded testimony. I glanced at the empty passenger seat where Eleanor used to sit. She chose us. The judge's nameplate read, Honorable Margaret Brennan, and her expression suggested she'd already heard enough nonsense for one Wednesday morning. She'd presided over Allegheny County Orphans Court for 17 years and could spot bad faith petitions before opening arguments finished. I sat beside Belinda at the respondent's table manila folder, thick with documentation between us. Across the aisle, Lamar sat with Morrison's senior partner at Morrison and Webb Legal, who specialized in high-stakes guardianship cases and rarely lost, except he was about to. "Mr. Morrison," Judge Brennan said, "your emergency petition cites cognitive decline, fall risk, and financial mismanagement. Yet the hearing was originally scheduled for November 26th. What changed?" Morrison stood adjusting his tie. "New evidence came to light regarding immediate danger to the proposed ward, Your Honor. We felt compelled to accelerate." "Ms. Phelps," Judge Brennan cut him off. Belinda rose with the calm of someone holding 4 aces. "Your Honor, the petitioner claims cognitive impairment, while the evidence shows systematic financial fraud. Mr. Stone's mental acuity isn't the question, his son's criminal intent is." She slid the first exhibit across the bench. Neurological evaluation, dated November 10th, signed by Dr. Raymond Cole at Allegheny General. Cognitive function, normal. Memory assessment, excellent. Recommendation, no limitations. The petitioner also claims financial mismanagement, Belinda continued. Yet Mr. Stone maintains perfect credit, pays all obligations on time, and recently executed a sophisticated, irrevocable trust protecting his minor granddaughter's inheritance. Exhibit B, credit report pristine. Exhibit C, trust documents notarized and filed. Your Honor, I'd like to call Harry Sutton to testify. Harry had worked alongside me for 23 years in the Pittsburgh steel mills and still met me for coffee every Thursday without fail. He took the witness stand in his good khakis, work-calloused hands, steady on the Bible. "Mr. Sutton, how long have you known Herbert Stone?" 23 years in the mills, and we've been friends ever since," Harry said. "Have you observed any cognitive decline, memory loss, or impaired judgment?" Harry looked at Lamar, then at me, then back at Belinda. "No, ma'am." Herbert remembers things I forgot I told him. Last Thursday, he reminded me about my grandson's baseball tournament I'd completely spaced on. One more question, Belinda said. Does Mr. Stone require assistance managing his daily affairs? He works 5 jobs, Harry said. I'm retired and I can barely keep up with him. Judge Brennan made a note. Morrison shifted in his seat. Belinda returned to our table, pulled out the forensic analysis. Your Honor, the true motive for this petition isn't protection, it's concealment. The petitioner, Lamar Stone, forged his father's signature 23 times across 18 months, embezzling $47,000 from joint accounts established for his late mother's medical expenses. The courtroom smelled like old varnish and institutional carpet cleaner. I watched Morrison shuffle papers with trembling hands, the sound of expensive legal strategy collapsing into recycling. Additionally, Belinda said, Mr. Lamar Stone forged his wife's signature on this guardianship petition itself. She has filed for legal separation, citing fraud and forgery. Exhibit G, signature analysis showing Estefania's name signed by Lamar. Exhibit H, separation papers filed November 20th. Judge Brennan removed her reading glasses. Mr. Morrison, does your client wish to respond to these allegations? Morrison whispered urgently to Lamar. My son's face had gone white. We request a continuance, Your Honor, to review. Denied, Judge Brennan said. This petition alleges Mr. Herbert Stone poses immediate danger to himself and requires emergency intervention. The evidence shows no cognitive impairment, no financial mismanagement, and substantial documentation of the petitioner's own criminal conduct. She stamped the file. Petition denied with prejudice. Mr. Stone retains full legal autonomy and custody rights regarding his minor granddaughter. Morrison leaned toward Lamar. I heard the whisper from 3 feet away. With prejudice means we can't refile, it's over. I walked out of the courthouse at 11:15 Wednesday morning. The guardianship weapon Lamar had built over 6 weeks had been destroyed in 40 minutes. That afternoon, Belinda called. A G's office confirmed receipt, she said. They're opening formal investigation into the bank fraud and embezzlement. FBI Pittsburgh field office is reviewing the interstate wire transfers from the warehouse sale attempt. I sat in my truck outside the Lawrenceville duplex, where I'd just fixed a furnace. They already have the evidence. Delivered Monday, Belinda said. Your civil case and the criminal investigation are parallel tracks now. What happens Thursday at the gala is separate, but law enforcement already knows everything Lamar tried to hide. Thursday, I received a text message from Cassius Whitfield. I won't be at Thanksgiving dinner. My presence would complicate your moment. But my statement is filed with your attorney. Good luck, Herbert. I stared at the message for 5 minutes. A billionaire I'd met once had chosen to believe a 74-year-old maintenance man over his own son-in-law. Friday, Estefania's separation papers became public record. I learned this from Viola, who heard it from her sister whose daughter worked at the courthouse. Saturday, I worked all 5 jobs. Sunday, I went to early mass and lit a candle for Eleanor. Monday, I bought a new shirt for Wednesday's gala. Tuesday, I ironed my only suit. Wednesday evening, Leland and Viola arrived at my kitchen at 6 p.m. I'd made stew, 3 ingredients, nothing fancy. We sat around the worn wooden table Eleanor and I bought at a yard sale in 1981. Leland set the master evidence folder on the table. 1 copy to the AG, 1 to FBI, 1 in your pocket. Everything documented, everything duplicated. The stew bubbled on my ancient stove, filling the kitchen with warmth. No complexity, no performance, just what it claimed to be. Everything Lamar never understood about integrity. Tomorrow you walk into that ballroom, Viola said, and you tell the truth. That's all Eleanor ever asked, just tell the truth. Leland lifted his tea mug. To Eleanor, we drank in silence. Outside the window, first snow began dusting Pittsburgh's November darkness. They left at 8. I washed dishes at the sink, watching snowflakes catch streetlight. The evidence folder sat on the table in its manila envelope, 147 pages, that would turn the Omni William Penn Grand Ballroom into something Lamar never anticipated. Eleanor's photograph watched from the counter. 7 years she'd been gone. 7 years of working 5 jobs to pay her medical bills while our son planned to steal what we'd built. Tomorrow, I'd walk into 200 Pittsburgh elite in cocktail attire and tell them the truth she never got to hear, that our son was a thief, that his wife was leaving him, that I'd protected our granddaughter from his greed. Tomorrow, the truth got spoken in front of witnesses. I dried the last bowl folded, the dish towel turned off the kitchen light. Tomorrow, I walked into the Omni William Penn Grand Ballroom at exactly 6 o'clock, wearing my only suit and carrying 30 years of truth in a manila envelope. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across 200 Pittsburgh elite in black tie attire, champagne flutes, catching reflections like promises. A string quartet tuned in the corner. The air hummed with wealth and anticipation. Eleanor, I walked into ballrooms with you for 40 years. Tonight I walk in alone, but you're here anyway. I spotted Lamar across the room in a bespoke tuxedo that probably cost what I made in 3 months. He was laughing with a group of investors, hand gestures, expansive teeth, white against his tan. Then he saw me. His smile froze for half a second, pure panic flashing across his face like lightning, before smoothing into something worse. Predatory confidence. He thought I'd come alone and broken perfect for the humiliation he'd planned. I accepted a glass of water from a passing server and surveyed the room. The head table displayed place cards in elegant calligraphy. I counted the seats. Cassius Whitfield's name sat at the center position, flanked by family. But the chair remained empty, pulled back as if waiting for someone who would never arrive. The billionaire chose his side by not choosing a seat. Anyone watching closely would read that absence like a headline. Pittsburgh's wealthiest patriarch doesn't skip his own foundation's Thanksgiving gala without reason. The empty chair spoke louder than any statement. I touched the envelope inside my jacket. 147 pages. Everything documented. Everything true. Indicium, Herbert. Lamar's voice carried across 15 feet of marble floor. He approached with arms extended like we were old friends reuniting. I'm so glad you made it. Come, there are people I want you to meet. He steered me toward a circle of investors near the bar. I recognized the type-tailored suits, confident postures, the particular ease of people who'd never worried about grocery money. Shows everyone this is Herbert, Lamar said with warmth that would have sounded genuine to anyone who didn't know better. An old friend who worked as our live-in handyman and helper years ago. Very dedicated to the family. The ballroom smelled like expensive perfume, fresh-cut flowers, and ambition. 200 people who measured success in board seats and square footage, watching a man in a 15-year-old suit shake hands like he belonged here. Because I did. Douglas Merchant extended his hand first. He ran Merchant Capital, Pittsburgh's third-largest private equity fund, and treated everyone from janitors to CEOs with the same measured courtesy. Pleasure to meet you, Herbert. Likewise, I said, meeting his eyes. Patricia Kingsley stood beside him, sharp-eyed and direct. She'd developed half of Pittsburgh's North Shore waterfront and respected builders more than bankers. What kind of work do you do now, Herbert? I felt Lamar's attention sharpen beside me, ready to redirect if I said the wrong thing. I served as a master industrial steel mechanic for 31 years, I said quietly. Precision work, everything has to be exactly right, or the whole structure fails. Patricia's expression shifted to genuine interest. Steelwork, that's honest labor. Built this city that trade. Yes, ma'am, I said. Douglas nodded. My grandfather worked the mills. Hardest job he ever loved. Lamar's smile tightened at the corners. This wasn't the narrative he'd constructed. The elderly handyman was supposed to shuffle and mumble, not stand straight, and speak clearly about skilled labor that commanded respect. "Herbert's being modest," Lamar interjected smoothly. "These days he keeps busy with odd jobs here and there. Very active for his age." "5 jobs," I said. "Maintenance work, plumbing, security. I stay useful." Patricia smiled. "I like useful." The conversation moved on. Lamar guided me away after 3 minutes, his grip on my elbow just slightly too tight. The next hour passed in careful orchestration. I circulated with polite restraint, accepting introductions, declining champagne, watching Lamar grow increasingly confident as I remained silent about everything that mattered. He checked his watch repeatedly, 7:15, 7:37, 45. The formal announcement was scheduled for 8 o'clock. His moment of triumph approaching on schedule. Lamar glows with the particular confidence of a man who thinks he's built a fortress when he's actually constructed a gallows, every smile, every handshake, every minute closer to 8 o'clock, tightening the rope he doesn't know is there. I sipped water and touched the envelope in my jacket pocket. Waited. Across the ballroom, Estefania stood near the exit doors in a navy gown that probably cost more than my truck. She wasn't mingling, wasn't smiling, wasn't standing anywhere near her husband. Throughout the evening, she'd maintained careful distance, 30 feet minimum, positioning herself for departure rather than celebration. Her body language screamed what her mouth couldn't say in public. I'm not standing beside him anymore. Those watching closely could read the marriage's collapse in her spatial choices. She caught my eye once across the room. No words. Just a small nod of acknowledgement. Then she looked away. At 7:40, Lamar approached an investor near the bar. I was close enough to hear. "We have a very special family announcement at 8 o'clock, he said, voice warm with anticipation. "Something I've been working toward for years." "Looking forward to it," the investor said. Lamar turned, scanning the room, until he found me standing near a decorative column. Our eyes met. He smiled, genuine pleasure lighting his face. He thought I was defeated. Thought I'd come to this glittering ballroom to witness my own humiliation in silence. Thought 30 years of patience meant I'd forgotten how to fight. He was so certain I was broken that he couldn't see I was just waiting for the microphone. I stood 20 feet from the raised platform where the foundation's chairman would make opening remarks before turning the microphone over to featured speakers. Lamar had arranged to speak second. Prime position, maximum audience attention. I touched the envelope one more time. Everything documented, everything true, everything Eleanor never got to say about the son who'd stolen from us while she was dying. At 7:50, Lamar stepped toward the platform. He picked up a silver spoon, tapped it against a crystal champagne flute. The sharp ringing cut through conversation like a blade. 200 faces turned toward him. He smiled, radiant and victorious, and raised the microphone to his lips. I stood 20 feet away, manila envelope folded inside my jacket, watching my son prepare to announce the beginning of his own ending. Lamar's voice was mid-sentence. "I'm proud to announce our family's next chapter," when I stood up from the corner table and started walking toward the stage. 200 faces turned. The string quartet's music faltered, stopped. My footsteps on marble floor became the only sound in the grand ballroom. Lamar froze at the microphone's smile locked in place like a photograph. "Dad, what are you?" "This isn't the time." I kept walking. Center aisle. Steady pace. The manila envelope folded inside my jacket, pressed against my ribs with every step. 2 security guards moved toward me from the sides. Professional, polite, ready to intercept the elderly man disrupting Pittsburgh's most prestigious Thanksgiving gala. Then a hand raised from the back corner of the ballroom. Single gesture, palm out, unmistakable authority. Cassius Whitfield sat in the last row, positioned where no one would notice unless they were looking. He'd said he wouldn't attend. He'd lied. The billionaire who'd built half of Pittsburgh's skyline sat in a folding chair watching his son-in-law's father walk toward a microphone, and when security moved to stop me, Cassius signaled, "Stand down." "Let him speak," he said quietly. The guard stepped back. I climbed the stage steps, stood beside my son, extended my hand for the microphone. Lamar's fingers tightened around it. "Dad, please, not now. We can talk later." I waited. Our eyes met. Something in my expression must have told him this moment was inevitable as gravity, because his hand opened and the microphone transferred between us like evidence changing hands in a courtroom. I adjusted the stand to my height, looked out at 200 Pittsburgh elite in black tie attire, champagne forgotten conversations suspended. "Good evening," I said. My voice carried through speakers calm and clear. "My name is Herbert Stone. My son introduced me earlier as his former family handyman. That is incorrect. I am his father. And I have a few things I would like to share tonight." I pulled the manila envelope from my jacket, unfolded it. The papers crinkled and the microphone amplified. "I'm going to read 5 facts," I said. No speculation, no emotion. Just facts that have been documented, notarized, and filed with appropriate authorities. Lamar stood 3 feet to my left face, draining of color. "Point 1, I said. My son Lamar Stone embezzled $180,000 from his deceased mother's business, Eleanor's Craft Supply. When confronted, he told me it was legitimate business debt. It was not. The funds were diverted to personal accounts and luxury expenditures. I turned the page. Point 2. He forged my signature 23 times across 18 months, committing federal bank fraud. Total theft, $47,000 from joint accounts, established to pay my late wife Eleanor's medical expenses. Forensic evidence has been submitted to the FBI Pittsburgh field office. Somewhere in the audience, a champagne flute slipped from nerveless fingers and shattered on marble, the crack like a gunshot. No one moved to clean it. I continued reading. Point 3. He forged his wife Estefania's signature on a fraudulent guardianship petition, claiming I was cognitively impaired and required legal supervision. The petition was heard by Judge Margaret Brennan in Allegheny County Orphans Court on November 19th. It was dismissed with prejudice. I could hear breathing now. 200 people inhaling and exhaling in synchronized silence. Point 4. All family assets, including property accounts and business interests. My late wife Eleanor and I built over 43 years of marriage have been transferred to an irrevocable trust, protecting my 9-year-old granddaughter, Chandler Stone. These assets cannot be accessed, controlled, or claimed by anyone except the designated trustee acting in Chandler's interest. My voice stayed flat. Weather report, grocery list. The absence of rage made every word land harder. Point 5. The commercial warehouse property at Eleanor's Craft Supply, valued at $4.8 million, was sold on October 27th to Prestige Logistics. Proceeds were immediately wired to Chandler's shielded trust account. My son attempted to sell this property 3 weeks earlier using a forged power of attorney. That sale was blocked. I folded the papers. The sound echoed through perfect silence. The ballroom's crystal chandeliers burned steady overhead, throwing light on 200 faces frozen in identical expressions, the look people wear when they realize they're witnessing something that will be repeated in Pittsburgh whispers for decades. "These are the facts," I said. "Everything I've stated is documented. Copies have been provided to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's Office, the FBI, and my attorney Belinda Phelps of Northside Legal Services. I came here tonight because my son planned to make an announcement about me. I thought you should hear the truth first." I set the microphone flat on the podium. The hollow thunk resonated through speakers. Lamar stood beside me, mouth opening and closing soundlessly, hands trembling. His face had gone ash gray. The man who'd worked this room an hour ago with confident handshakes and expansive gestures now looked like someone watching their own execution. "That's not, he's confused, this is—" His voice cracked, barely audible without the microphone. I descended the stage steps. Didn't rush, didn't run. Just walked with the same steady pace I'd used climbing them. The center aisle stretched before me. 200 frozen faces tracked my movement. I recognized Douglas Merchant in the third row, Patricia Kingsley beside him. Judge Margaret Brennan sat near the back, expression unreadable. Not one person spoke. "Eleanor," I told them everything. Near the exit, Estefania stood with tears streaming down her face, navy gown, dark against pale skin. As I passed, she stepped aside. Her voice came in a whisper, barely loud enough to hear. "I'm sorry." I nodded once, kept walking. My footsteps on marble were the only sound. Behind me, the stage held my son in frozen tableau, the man who'd tried to steal his father's autonomy, his granddaughter's inheritance, his mother's legacy, standing speechless in front of the people he'd tried to impress. I reached the ballroom exit, pushed through heavy wooden doors into the hotel corridor. Behind me, through the closing gap, I glimpsed the stage one final time. Lamar still stood at the microphone, frozen. 200 Pittsburgh elite sat in complete silence, staring at the man whose empire had just collapsed in 8 minutes. The doors closed with a soft thud. Silence wrapped around me like Eleanor's hands. I was 3 steps into the corridor when I heard the ballroom doors swing open behind me, and Cassius Whitfield's voice, "Mr. Stone, wait." I turned. The billionaire walked deliberately across the silent ballroom toward me, 200 witnesses tracking his movement. His footsteps echoed on marble like a judge's gavel. Behind him, Lamar remained frozen on stage, watching his father-in-law cross the floor toward the man he'd just tried to destroy. Cassius reached me, extended his hand. I took it. His grip was firm, deliberate, the handshake of a man making a statement. "Mr. Stone," he said, voice carrying through the open doors into the ballroom. "I offer my profound apologies for not running cleaner verification on the man entering my family. That failure is mine. Mr. Whitfield, so please." He didn't release my hand. "A man who builds $4.8 million in assets from honest work over 43 years deserves honest partnerships." He paused, then spoke louder, not shouting, but ensuring the words reached every corner of the silent ballroom. "The Whitfield Group would be deeply honored to discuss industrial logistics partnerships with your family trust in the coming fiscal year." I stood in a hotel corridor, wearing my 15-year-old suit, shaking hands with Pittsburgh's wealthiest patriarch, while 200 phone cameras rose simultaneously. "Mr. Whitfield, that's generous," I said. "I would be honored." 200 phone screens glowed in the ballroom dimness like digital fireflies, all capturing the same image: billionaire shaking hands with the man his son-in-law had introduced as a handyman. The click of camera shutters sounded like rain on a tin roof. By morning, this moment would be viral among Pittsburgh's business elite. Cassius released my hand, nodded once, then returned to the ballroom. He didn't look at the stage where Lamar stood, didn't acknowledge his son-in-law's existence. The dismissal was absolute. I turned back toward the exit. "Mr. Stone." Estefania stood 10 feet away in her navy gown, Chandler gripping her hand. My granddaughter's eyes were red from crying. Estefania's mascara had streaked, carefully repaired, but still visible. "Is Mr. Stone." I had absolutely no idea the madness went this deep. Her voice cracked. "I am so deeply sorry." I looked at her, this woman who'd believed her husband's lies for 18 years, who'd thought I was wealthy and selfish, who'd signed papers she never read, and trusted a man who'd forged her name. You have nothing to apologize for, Estefania, I said quietly. Just protect this little girl. Chandler broke away from her mother's hand and ran. She wrapped her arms around my waist, pressed her face against my jacket. I held her tight, feeling her small shoulders shake. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered. Everything's okay now. She pulled back slightly, looked up at me with Eleanor's eyes. Then she leaned close, whispered against my ear so only I could hear. And Daddy called you an old bastard. I heard him last month when you left after dinner. I didn't like it when he said that. My chest tightened. 9 years old, and she'd been carrying that knowledge, watching her father's cruelty, choosing sides in a war she shouldn't have understood. I know, baby, I said. I know. Estefania's hand touched my shoulder. We're leaving tonight. My father's estate. Chandler will be safe there. Good, I said. That's good. I kissed Chandler's forehead, released her gently back to her mother. Estefania took her daughter's hand and walked toward the elevator bank without looking back at the ballroom. Without looking back at her husband. I stood in the marble corridor for 30 seconds, gathering strength. Through the ballroom's open doors, I saw movement. 3 men in dark suits, Whitfield Group corporate attorneys, recognizable by their synchronized efficiency, converged on the stage where Lamar stood. They escorted him toward a side exit, voices too low to hear, but body language unmistakable. Not a request. A removal. I walked toward the hotel's main exit. Past the concierge desk, the empty coat check, the silent lobby bar. Behind me, the gala dissolved. Guests streamed toward exits in clusters of urgent whispers. The string quartet packed instruments in silence. Servers cleared champagne flutes from abandoned tables. I pushed through the hotel's revolving door into November cold. Pittsburgh's downtown stretched before me, buildings lit against dark sky. I'd parked 6 blocks away to save the valet fee. I started walking. My phone buzzed. Text from Belinda saw the video. 6 different people sent it already. You okay? I typed back, going home. Another buzz. Leland. That took guts. Eleanor would be proud. I didn't respond to that one. Just kept walking. 6 blocks later, I reached my truck. Climbed in. Sat in the cold cab for 5 minutes before starting the engine. Eleanor's photograph was tucked in the sun visor. I pulled it down, looked at her smile. I told them, I said to the empty truck. I told them everything. The photograph didn't answer. But I felt something settle in my chest anyway. Something that had been clenched tight for 7 years, finally loosening. I drove home through empty streets. Behind me, at the Omni William Penn Hotel, Lamar Stone stood in the executive lounge, being informed his employment with Whitfield Group was terminated effective immediately. His wife was texting divorce attorneys. His daughter was being driven to her grandfather's estate with instructions that he was not to contact them. Federal fraud indictments would arrive Monday morning, but I didn't know those details yet. Wouldn't learn them until later. What I knew was this. I'd walked into a ballroom filled with people who measured worth in dollars and influence, and I'd told the truth in front of 200 witnesses. A billionaire had shaken my hand. My granddaughter had chosen me. My son's empire had collapsed in 8 minutes of documented facts, read in a voice that never rose above weather report calm. I parked in my usual spot behind the Squirrel Hill apartment building, climbed the stairs to my door, unlocked it, walked inside. The kitchen light was still on from this morning. Eleanor's photograph sat on the counter where I'd left it. The evidence folder, now empty, lay beside the sink. I filled a glass of water, drank it slowly, set it in the dish rack. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Outside, first snow continued falling on Pittsburgh. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table in the silence Eleanor and I had shared for 43 years, and I let myself feel what I hadn't allowed in the ballroom. Exhaustion, relief, grief, peace, justice witnessed. The alarm didn't go off at 4:15 a.m., and for the first time in 3 years, I woke to daylight streaming through my kitchen window at 7 o'clock. I lay still for 30 seconds, disoriented, before remembering I'd turned it off last night. Turned off all 5 alarms. The delivery shift, the cleaning route, the plumbing calls, the warehouse rounds, none of them needed me this morning. I rose slowly joints, protesting less than usual. Brewed coffee by hand, measuring grounds the way Eleanor taught me, 2 tablespoons per cup, 1 extra for the pot. The kitchen filled with warmth while fresh snow blanketed the quiet street outside. My phone sat on the counter where I'd left it powered off since the gala. I pressed the button, watched the screen flicker to life. 47 text messages, 23 missed calls, all from Lamar. I opened the first message dated 11:42 p.m. Thanksgiving night. Dad, please. I am so sorry. Can we talk? I need to explain. I set the phone face down without reading further. 3 years of 4:15 a.m. alarms. 3 years of 5 jobs. 3 years of every muscle aching, every dollar counted, every hour measured against Eleanor's medical bills and Lamar's lies, and now silence. I sipped my coffee, watched snowfall, and felt something I hadn't experienced since Eleanor died. Peace without guilt attached to it. Some apologies come too late to matter. December snow melted into January rain. January rain froze into February ice. 3 months passed like chapters closing, each one lighter than the last. My shoulders straightening as the weight of 5 jobs lifted one resignation at a time. Monday, December 1st, I visited 4 employers to resign. The delivery company first. Zephyr met me in the loading bay, young face serious. When I told him I was leaving, he extended his hand. You earned this retirement, sir," he said. "Earned it the hard way." The office building where I'd cleaned overnight. Diane supervised the crew and treated every janitor like family. She'd worked cleaning services for 32 years and knew the difference between people who saw through you and people who saw you. When I explained I was moving on, she pulled me into a long hug. "You were the best partner I ever worked with, Herbert," she said. "Don't be a stranger." The weekend plumbing clients tipped their hats, shook my hand, asked if I'd recommend a replacement. I gave them 3 names of good workers who needed the income. The Strip District warehouse last. Marsden met me at the loading dock with coffee already poured. "Dock doors always unlocked if you get bored," he said. "But I know you won't need us anymore." I kept exactly 1 job night security shift with Leland. Not for money, not because I needed it, because I chose to. Freedom, I learned, isn't quitting work. It's choosing your work instead of being chosen by necessity. March arrived with early warmth. April followed with cherry blossoms along the Allegheny. Belinda called me to her office overlooking the river. She spread documents across her desk like evidence in a trial that had already been won. "Final accounting," she said. Lamar pleaded guilty to federal bank fraud, 5 years probation, 200 hours community service, full restitution of $47,000. State charges for elder exploitation, repayment of $180,000 plus interest over 7 years. Forgery carries a 3-year suspended sentence. The guardianship petition is permanently expunged from all records. She slid a chart across the desk. Numbers in neat columns. Legal terminology translated into simple math. "Lamar legally owes you $253,600, Belinda said. "You never owed him a single dime." I stared at the chart showing court-ordered restitution and thought about Eleanor. She never cared about the money either. She just wanted our family to know the truth. Now 200 witnesses plus federal court records carried it forward forever. "The money doesn't matter, Belinda," I said. "Chandler's safe, that's what matters." "For the record," Belinda said quietly, "you won completely, every single count." I folded the chart, put it in my jacket pocket next to Eleanor's photograph. Walked out into April sunshine feeling something I couldn't quite name. Not triumph, not vengeance, just completion. April night, 2 a.m. downtown security shift. I sat at the monitoring desk beside Leland, watching empty hallways on silent screens. We'd worked this shift together for 3 years, but everything had fundamentally changed. The crushing exhaustion was gone. My shoulders felt light. We worked this shift by choice now. Not necessity, two old men keeping buildings safe because we wanted to, not because we needed the paycheck to survive. My phone lit up on the desk. Picture message from Chandler. She'd painted a warehouse in bright yellow tempera, childish brushstrokes, bold and joyful. The caption read, "Grandpa, I'm painting your warehouse. I'm painting it bright yellow because I know it's your favorite color." I smiled. Leland glanced over, saw the painting, smiled too. That kid is going to have a beautiful life," he said. "Yeah," I said. "She is." We sat in comfortable silence, monitoring screens, showing nothing but empty corridors and locked doors. Outside, Pittsburgh slept. Inside, 2 security guards kept watch over buildings that didn't need guarding, doing work that mattered not because it was important, but because they'd chosen it. I thought about Eleanor, about 43 years of marriage built on honesty and hard work. About Lamar, who'd tried to steal what we'd built and ended up with nothing but court-ordered debt, and a daughter who'd chosen her grandfather. About Chandler painting warehouses yellow in her mother's kitchen, protected by trusts and legal documents, and one old man's refusal to surrender. Sometimes you spend a whole lifetime working in the dark just to learn one thing. The things that matter most are never the things the world can see. It's what you manage to keep safe when everything else is stripped away. I set my phone down, Chandler's painting still glowing on the screen. Leland poured coffee from the thermos we shared. The security monitors cycled through empty hallways, quiet lobbies, locked doors. 2 a.m. in Pittsburgh. April 2026. An old man at a desk he didn't need to work, watching over buildings that didn't need watching, protecting things that couldn't be stolen. Eleanor would have understood. I sipped my coffee and kept the watch. And to you listening, remember this: sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you need to watch most carefully. Looking back, I made one critical mistake. I trusted my son's word without verifying his actions. For years, I believed the bills he showed me, the debts he claimed. I wanted to believe my own child wouldn't steal from his dying mother. Don't make my mistake. When someone asks you to trust them blindly, that's when you need to look closer. This family story taught me that protecting what matters sometimes means standing up to the people you love most. I believe God gave me the strength to work those 5 jobs at 67 because Chandler needed someone who wouldn't quit. The truth doesn't need defending, it just needs witnessing. And when you finally tell that truth, even if it breaks your heart, the right people will stand beside you. Every family story has a moment where you choose silence or truth. I chose truth, and my granddaughter is safe because of it. If this family story resonated with you, please leave a comment below. What would you have done in my position? Stayed silent or spoken up? Share this with someone who might need to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Dad's Revenge Stories for more real accounts of justice and resilience. Your comments and support mean more than you know. Thank you for staying until the very end. Your time means everything. One final note: while based on real experiences, certain details have been fictionalized for storytelling. The lesson about protecting what you love and speaking truth even when it costs you remains authentic.